Welcome to Cinemania. It's been a while. How is everybody doing?
Wow.
My name is Brandon Shellingford. Alongside me are my co-hosts.
Landon Roberts.
Adam Cheek.
And Sam Goodrich. I think I'm not going to
And
Landon.
what did you say, Sam?
Sorry, I think we lost Landon for a second there, but it's fine now.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think it is. Yeah, it's fine now. He moved.
Oh, I'm Landon Roberts. I'm Landon.
That's Landon.
My name is Landon Roberts. Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. Welcome to Cinemania. And we've been gone for a few weeks. Because we felt it wouldn't be kind of appropriate to kind of have a show with everything going on in the country at this point. And in the current state, movies are far from the most important thing that should be talked about, that should be kind of focused on at this point. So we just felt like it'd probably be good to take a few weeks off the show. But, life goes on and we have to kind of learn to balance our social obligations with kind of just like stuff like this where we can kind of move away from it for a second. But I think it's important to kind of remember that while film is fun and everything, there is reality going on outside of our doors. We have to kind of dedicate ourselves to and kind of pay attention to. And I think that we can do this show and kind of also as well do that. We can do the show, but do that at the same time. I think that's
Acknowledge it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you at home feel the need to support people that are out there protesting, just look up your local funds, petitions, and if you are on the ground, please be safe and try your best not to cause too much trouble, but keep fighting the good fight.
I would add on, but everybody did a better job of it. So I'll just say Black Lives Matter. Of course, all Black Lives Matter, no matter who you are, where you're from, your sexual orientation, anything, especially now during Pride Month. It's very important to remember that.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll just second what Sam said. Black Lives Matter. Go out and support bail funds, donation funds, anything you can. And
support your local Black businesses too.
Yeah. It's a big thing.
Also, rest in peace, Olotoyin and I forgot her last name, Olotoyin Salu. It's really, really sad because in the last week, I think the focus has been shifted, rightly so, to Black women and kind of how they've been attacked. Because we pay a lot of attention to Black men and more importantly cis Black men. But I think that the focus over the last few days has been rightly shifted towards more other marginalized pieces of the Black community. So I think that's really good as well. So rest in peace to her and rest in power. And I don't know, it's just been kind of a really shitty a really shitty month. Really shitty kind of last 400 years, but
yeah.
But yeah, with that being said, I think we should move into the movie stuff, if that's cool with everyone else.
The movie shit.
I agree. But one last thing. Like I said, I think a lot of news coverage isn't covering what's happening right now, but people should still go out there and fight for what is just and for what is right. And please do not stop because change is being made and there's no reason to stop until change is made for the better. So that's my last
thing too. This is the last thing. Vote. Because Trump is in the White House and he's terrible and we all hate him. But the real change that needs to be made is on the local levels. And so go to your politicians' doors, go to your local city halls, canvass, petition, yell at them, scream at them, because that's where the real change can be made first. And that's where you have to go to, because the national level, it's really just a shit show at this point. So fight for your communities, fight for people around you.
Yeah. You can't reform the top until you start at the bottom. So
yeah,
that's where all the fights should be occurring right now, because there are a lot of issues in local areas, and that's where we need to go for first. Here where we're from in Richmond, there's been a lot of change that has been occurring. There's still a lot of change that needs to happen, but I don't think it's going to be settling down anytime soon until all the right change is made. So
We're making strides.
Yes.
Yep, we're getting we got somewhere that we hadn't gotten before. So
Yeah, like
the start.
we have Pharrell Williams came down today, so
Yeah.
and but like we won't talk about this on the show, but yeah.
Yeah.
We'll move now.
So yeah, we'll go to movies. So I think we're just gonna try to go straight to transitioning into what we've been watching over the last few weeks. Does anyone want to go first?
Oh, okay.
Sam, do you want to go?
Oh, I was gonna suggest I go because I think I might have I have a fairly short list. I don't have anything crazy.
All
right, good.
Because I haven't watched too many movies. I kind of spent a week just kind of playing games rather than watching movies, and another week being really depressed about the world. So now I got time to watch movies. I don't think I talked about this on our last show. Yeah, I don't think I talked about this on the last show because we didn't have. I didn't get a chance. I watched The Housemaid, the South Korean film, which is fucking Bong Joon-ho's favorite movie, and it's kind of amazing. I don't know. It's hard to put. It's a very unique, melodramatic, kind of crazy movie that's all its own thing. That's very like visually striking and like kind of ridiculous, but like in a very entertaining and well-made way.
Which movie was this again of his? Sorry.
Well, no,
not Bong Joon-ho's movie.
No. It's a movie called The Housemaid, but it's Bong Joon-ho's favorite movie.
Okay.
Like the movie that's inspired him the most. And whenever he was being interviewed for Parasite, he was like, "Hey, go watch The Housemaid. Like that's real Korean cinema right there." And I completely understand where Bong Joon-ho was inspired by it because it's very its own voice and its own thing, and really just like does insane things all the time with a plot that's constantly evolving and becoming insane and just like off the wall. And I think the moment in which I kind of fell in love with The Housemaid is the very end, which I don't want to spoil, but the very last scene is like this really bizarre attempt to like make up for all of the like crazy sexual violent things that have happened. It's almost like a way, it reminds me of like changing the color of blood in Evil Dead 2, where they couldn't have like red blood. They had to have different colors so it wouldn't be censored. It's kind of like that. It's kind of on that same level. I don't want to say what it is, but it's like when it happens. Never mind. I was gonna make a comparison, but I think that'd be too on the nose. But it's crazy. And then I watched The Burial of Kojo, which is oh my god, I forget the exact part of Africa it's from, but it is an African film that's on Netflix. I've meant to watch it for a while, and it's a film that's visually gorgeous. I don't know if the plot and the characters are really there, but it's a really great visual film. It's very beautiful. The themes are very fascinating about like almost like sort of people, poverty-stricken people, like trying to find a purpose or a meaning, especially in a society that's kind of left them by the wayside. A lot of spiritualism, a lot of I don't know, childlike wonderment and like fairy tales and dreams. It's really, really interesting. And it's fairly short too, so if it's not your thing, it's not going to take too long for it to be over with. But I thought it was really nice. And then I watched Blowout, the Brian De Palma movie with John Travolta, which is a remake of the Italian film Blow Up, for Blow Up, which I haven't seen. But Blowout was really interesting. It's Brian De Palma, so it's a lot of paranoia. It's a lot of split screen shots, really innovative and interesting cinematography. John Travolta is really good in it, even if he is really, really aggressively trying to date the main female interest, which I think speaks more to his character. But I don't know. It's very interesting. It's very well done. It's a very tense film. I really, really like it. Really recommend it. Then this past weekend, I watched a few movies. I watched Dazed and Confused for the first time. It's fine. It's okay. I Well, okay. Well, first of all, Adam, why do you love it? Like, why are you into it?
What?
Or not Adam, Landon. Sorry,
Oh, me?
my bad.
Oh, I believe it is like the epitome of how to make a movie about nothing perfectly. It's literally the plot. There is no plot, basically. The
Well,
plot,
there
you
is
can
a plot.
summarize it. There is a plot, but like,
Well,
does the plot actually matter to the movie? It does.
Well, the problem is that the plot is about a bunch of high schoolers trying to beat up children. But
Slaps.
literally, okay, that was the
Like
only
also, but also, it's not. That's literally. That's not just it. I also believe it is this kind of idea of how the kind of hierarchy of high school and just school in general, how there can be this kind of like the hierarchy at the top that kind of belittles the people at the bottom. And I love how throughout the film you see the people that are getting like terrorized by these grown-ass men, how they kind of climb up the social ladder and kind of get their revenge on them at the end. That's just one small part of the movie, but like that's an aspect that I love a lot, and a lot of jokes and a lot of humor comes from it. And I think it's actually a really funny movie. The only parts that I don't really love are the creepy parts with
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Like he's the most quotable character in the movie, but I feel like a lot of people don't realize the quotes that they're saying are kind of like.
Remember when Ted
quotes
Cruz
involve him hitting on underage people?
Remember when Ted Cruz quote tweeted? I think it was like a girl on Twitter. She was like 23, and it was like it was her in a swimsuit, and like it was like the one who was like, as they just keep staying the same age. I keep getting older. They keep staying the same age. Hated it.
No.
Whoa! Wow.
Yeah.
No way.
Jesus.
But I think you're right about that, Landon. I think that is one of the interesting parts about the movie is the way it shows like the hierarchy and like the cliques of high school and how like fluid it is and how like that feels more real to the high school I went to is how like I was able to sort of navigate between different cliques and people and lifestyles. I just think it didn't really appeal to me personally. Again, I think I've talked about this before. I normally don't like movies set in high school. I think they're just kind of like, I just don't give, I don't care about your problems in high school. I don't care about what's happening. And I think it's just a personal thing. But I do.
That's why all the coming of age movies that don't occur in high school are always the best.
That's true. That's a fact. That's a fact right there. Or if they do take place in high school, they like have a different angle on it, like a Booksmart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they have a different angle on it.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if the people are in high school, they barely focus on them being in high school.
Yep.
And more focus on like internal issues.
Like Perks of Being a Wallflower.
It's the truth.
Perks.
I don't like that.
the book is really good.
Hey, I know we're like indie kids and we know a lot about music, but like, what is this song? What is this song that I keep hearing? God, who's this artist? I don't get it. Who is he?
I'll say this. I think the book is better than the movie. The problem with the movie is that it tries to have the same twist and it doesn't work. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but it works better in the book. Whatever. But Dazed and Confused, it's all right for me at least. And then I watched Brandon. I want to talk to you about this. I'm excited to talk to you about this film. I watched Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
I saw it on your Letterboxd. I saw it.
Okay, so let me give my Mamma Mia history real quick. Okay. Watched Mamma Mia 1 a couple of years ago with a friend of mine. Her name is Courtney, and she loves the first Mamma Mia. And I was like, all right, well, watch it. Like I've heard so much about it. I've never actually seen it, and I hated it. Really didn't like the first Mamma Mia because it's literally 2 hours of nothing. It's 2 hours of a bunch of people being stupid and pratfalling and like getting drunk and singing ABBA together. And it's like, if I wanted to see that, I would hang out with my parents. Like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to see a lot of rich people get paid millions of dollars to sing karaoke for 2 hours and then act like I had a good time. I understand the audience is there for it. I get what they're getting out of it. Not for me. It's not my thing. Admittedly, if I was drunk and watching it with more people, it'd be a lot more fun. Yes. I believe that. Mamma Mia 2, my friend Courtney hates. She thinks it's a terrible movie, and she cannot stand it. And so I heard that, and I went, oh, man, if she hates it, it's got to be awful. Then Patrick H. Willems, great YouTuber, made a video about Mamma Mia 2, calling it possibly the best sequel of all time in terms of being an upgrade from the original, like improving on everything.
Has he seen Paddington 2?
Paddington 2 is one of his favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
He's one of the people that turned me on to Paddington, actually. He's one of the people that made me realize how good it was. You as well, Landon. I'm not gonna keep you out of that conversation. But he made the video about Mamma Mia 2, and I went, you know what? That actually looks interesting. So I was hanging out with Courtney this weekend, and I was like, and we saw it was on an HBO, and I was like, yo, we should watch Mamma Mia 2. And she's like, are you sure? Like, and I was like, we should give it a chance. Like, let's go. Let's get into it. And like the opening scene, I was like, okay, this is a better movie. Like, this is legitimately a better movie than the first movie. Because it's competently directed with some actually really amazing and kind of like genius shots. Like, there's the sequence where it's Amanda Seyfried and her husband, and they're in two different parts of the world, but the way they set it up, they like keep connecting them through different parts of the room. Like, there's the shot where like the guy is leaning on like this side of the wall, and the camera like swoops around to like the other side of the wall, and it's her room, like directly connected. It's genius.
Yeah.
A lot of the transitions are really cool. Like, a lot of the cinematography and like choreography is really, really, really good. And like clearly had a lot of thought put into it. There's like a plot this time. There's like character motivations. There's things happening. Like, it's engaging. The only problem with the movie is like like an hour into the 2-hour movie, because the plot is like Amanda Seyfried trying to open up the hotel after Meryl Streep fucking dies. And
yeah.
The movie literally begins and it's like, oh, Mom, you're dead. Like, oh, okay. I guess she's not in the movie. But they also have a parallel plot where it's Lily James playing young Meryl Streep. Lily James, by the way, great in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So fucking good in this movie. But the idea is that it's like relaying how she met the 3 husbands or the 3 guys that she would sleep with that are maybe the dad. But then she like meets all 3 of them. And then you're like, oh, the movie's probably over. And there's like an hour left. And like, what the fuck is going to happen? And then the movie does like nothing for 30 minutes. Like, it just kind of patters about. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then they cut to Tokyo. Colin Firth. There's a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure poster. I just want to throw that out there. There's a JoJo reference, right? They cut to Colin Firth, and the movie starts picking back up. It starts getting funny again. It starts picking back up, leading to one of the best...
The greatest shots in cinema. The greatest scenes in cinema history.
One of the greatest scenes in cinema. Where I was literally, like, clapping. I was so ecstatic about the scene when they arrive on the island.
Oh, my God. I'm getting goosebumps.
Where there's just so many people on these boats. There's so many.
Like, where'd they come from?
They're all perfectly in sync. And my favorite part is when they like land the ships in the dock and people are like flipping off and like doing all this complicated shit.
This sounds like the scene in the first Mamma Mia where they're like at the dinner party and people are like climbing up the mountain.
No, yeah, like it's like that, but if it was better. But
like tribal wear or something like that.
Yeah.
They like attack the dinner party. That's what this sounds like. I hated that
It was
scene.
like, but it's like it's like the climax of the film. Like literally, there's been like the horrible thing that happens where a storm hits the island and all the decorations are torn apart and no one can show up. And Colin Firth and Stellan Skarsgård are just like, hey, all you fishermen, you want to get drunk? And they're like, yeah. So they all get on a boat. They all get on like 10 boats to go to the island. And like Pierce Brosnan's looking through his binoculars. And Amanda Seyfried's like, man, it's going to suck. Like no one's here. And Pierce Brosnan's like, oh, I don't think so. And he like hands.
And then Dancing Queen kicks in. It's just like
yes.
And like it hits so hard. It's like
you just see them all on the fucking boat. And Colin Firth and Stellan Skarsgård are doing the fucking Titanic like pose shit.
So fucking good. Oh my god.
It's so good. And then Cher shows up. And you're like you can get better. And then Cher shows up. And it turns out the kindly, sexy Spanish man is named what's the ABBA song? Damn it. Hernando. That's his name. So then they fucking perform the song and it's great. It's great.
It's like it's as close as I've ever come to like pure serotonin like in a film. Like it's from scene to scene to scene. I think it's a perfect film all in all. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like
that's definitely not true, but
okay. But like I feel like because the best parts of Mamma Mia is when it embraces like its entire musicaliness. Because like a lot of musicals turned into film kind of like try too hard to pivot towards a direction where it's like leaning into like a like I forgot what it was called, but it's leaning into being like a film. But like when Mamma Mia, the first one, embraces just it being a musical and being so goofy and silly and like so cheesy. That's when
embracing the fantasy of being a musical.
The fantasy, exactly. And 2 just doubles down on it entirely. From start to end, it's the fantasy.
The Waterloo performance?
Oh my god.
Fucking good.
So good. It's so good.
The Waterloo sequence is literally like a Mel Brooks comedy as a musical, where they're just throwing shit at you. They're changing dance numbers and comedy and jokes and shit all the time. And like most of it works. And you're like, I didn't think this would happen, but like here we are.
Yeah. And like also because Meryl Streep in the first Mamma Mia, I think it's one of her worst performances. I don't think she's good in the movie. Like I think she's terrible in the first Mamma Mia. And like, but for the second one, like Lily James, she carries that on her back. Like she's so good in it.
She is such a good Meryl.
So charismatic, and she's just such like she throughout all the scenes, especially like Waterloo and everything. Like I don't know, it just seems like she wants to be there so bad.
Yes,
you can see all that kind of like it's just so good. And like and especially the one where they're on the boat together. I forgot what the song's called, but it's with Stellan Skarsgård, the younger.
Yes.
That's just a great scene. Like it's just like the entire film scene is just like great scene after great scene after great scene after great scene, and it's just all strung together in such a way. And like you said, the choreography is so brilliant, and like we already talked about, but the Dancing Queen scene,
it's so because like it's a moment.
And like it's a climax. Everything in the film builds up to that moment.
Yes.
And you can feel like the film building up to this moment. You know what's gonna be, but you can feel the film building up to that like crescendo. And it's just like the and like I like burst, and it's every time.
And I think what works so well about it is that it kind of realized that like I think it's something Patrick Willems brings up, but like the first Mamma Mia was beholden to the Broadway show, to the stage show, right? And so it kind of had to really follow that. Mamma Mia 2, breaks her off, man. We're gonna do the fuck we want. So the director is like, yo, let's make a movie musical. We're not making a stage show, we're making a movie musical. And everybody showed up to play. Mm-hmm. Everybody showed up to do their part and fucking kill it and like just sell that movie.
Yeah.
And it's really great. It's got its problems. It did not need to be 2 hours by any stretch of the
3 hours.
Yeah, it needed to be 3 hours, okay? No, 2 hours is way too long for that movie. By the end, you're like looking at your watch, like, all right, Cher performed. What else is there to do? Like, there's nothing left. The ending credits sequence, though, really good.
Like, it's just so I get what you mean, Sam, when you're talking about the negatives in the film, but like there's just like I don't think it's a negative really. I think that entire portion of the film, there like you can it's just begging for something like substantially put into it, but like I feel like it's a lot less time than it feels like a lot less time than you're saying it is for me, because I feel like it's just like a little portion, because like it's after where, because like the whole scene where after she has sex with young Pierce Brosnan, it kind of like breaks into that scene where you talk, and then you see Amanda Seyfried and everything, and that scene just feels very, very like unsubstantial to me, and I can't really. Yes, Landon?
They digitally de-aged Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Did they actually?
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they also didn't let him sing, which was nice.
Wait, so they actually digitally de-aged Pierce Brosnan?
I'm honestly, didn't they do it to like not Colin Firth, but didn't they do it to Meryl Streep too? Or Cher? No, or Cher. They did it to Cher too. I'm pretty sure, right?
It would make more sense for Cher. I could see that. I could see that if it was Cher. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So Lily James had sex with the digitally de-aged
Pierce Brosnan. Yes.
Wow.
Also, the weird side character of the fucking of the dude that performs at the bar, that's like really bad. Well, he's not bad, but like
He owns the bar?
yeah.
Okay.
That was cool. I don't know. That was just like that's what the first Mamma Mia was missing, was like these other characters, these other things to fill out the world.
Because yeah, no, that's the thing that I love about this film too, because it feels like an actual like living, breathing world with like outside the main story, it feels like there's other things going on. Meanwhile, like, 'cause like in the first Mamma Mia, you just feel like you're watching these very like these contained stories where it's just like, okay, it's a fantasy, but it feels like too polished and like too kind of like I don't know. It just feels too like it like Mamma Mia 2 lives in a fantasy while like it doesn't even like. All right, what I'm trying to say is that 2 is so effortless in the way that it tries to go about this fantasy land, but like Mamma Mia is trying so hard. The first one's trying so hard to put you into like this world where like these rich people are like so beautiful and like having sex and like spending all this money. And yeah, and
they're having so much fun. Don't you want to have fun with them?
Yeah.
And then like Mamma Mia 2 is like, these are characters.
Yes, and they so happen to be having fun, but also they're not having a lot of film. They're not having fun. Like they're just like having babies and like being sad for a good.
But then when Dancing Queen hits,
it hits. Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, I didn't expect that to go into a whole thing, but I'm happy it did. Mamma Mia, here we go again. Actually pretty good. Recommended. Complete opposite end of the spectrum, and we'll probably get into this after everyone's talked. I watched Da 5 Bloods, which we'll get into later on, I think. But because I watched that, it made me realize I haven't seen a lot of Spike Lee movies. So I watched She's Gotta Have It the very next day. And that was actually pretty good. Is that technically his first movie, or is it? Yeah. It is? Okay.
It was crazy. It was at Cannes. His first film was at Cannes.
Really? I mean, I also get it because it's a really good movie. But like,
what was the musical number?
Pretty great. It literally is one of the musical numbers from Singing in the Rain. Like there's a section of it that's literally just like the guy he's literally wearing an outfit like Gene Kelly in Singing in the Rain, or I think it's more in American in Paris, but either way, he's a buff dude with a very tight shirt, you know? Like it's literally supposed to be Gene Kelly. And it's actually pretty great. It is really, really good. And it fits in with the score that's been a jazz score this whole time. But the rest of the movie is really good too. And I think it's a really interesting perspective on like modern relationships and like how men have these expectations for women, and how when women kind of tell them how things are, they don't want to accept it, or they like don't listen to women. It's really interesting. Very funny, very well done, really good cinematography. It's weird. It like doesn't have a lot of the Spike Lee isms that he would be known for, but it also has a lot of them. Like it's a weird mixture. Like you see where he's going, but then like Do the Right Thing is the one that would like cement everything, I feel like. Still really good. Still a very well made movie. Highly recommend it.
You should watch Crooklyn next, Sam.
I want to watch that. I also want to watch
Old Boy.
I want to watch Old Boy really bad, man. Josh Brolin. Come on. No, I really want to watch Malcolm X. I need to clear out like a day. I really want to watch Malcolm X.
You know who's in Malcolm X? Delroy Lindo,
Who also is in
The Five Blood.
That's true.
Who's also in Crooklyn. He's been in like so many Spike Lee
Oh
films.
shit.
Yeah, they've been like working together for a long time.
Nice. That would explain why he's so good in Five Bloods.
Yes, very like so good, so good. But yeah. So Sam, is that
is it? I think. Did I do anything else? Nah, that's probably it. That's it for me. Those are my movies.
Those are his movies. All right, Adam. Since you raised your hand, do you want to vote now?
I'm next on.
Sure. So let me bring it up here. Okay. So after we did our last show, a few days after that, I finished watching Community, which I decided to rewatch. I had to disconnect my Wi-Fi because it's going to disconnect if I don't. So I rewatched that over 2.5 weeks, something like that. It's just as great as I remember. I think rewatchability-wise, it's better than The Office, Parks and Rec. I don't know about It's Always Sunny, but it's definitely up there. I guess it was maybe a little bit cathartic having just graduated myself a little bit. But it's a pretty great show. I love all the characters in it, and it's sad that we didn't have Donald Glover on that show for longer because after he left that show, kind of like season 5 especially isn't bad, but it kind of fell apart from there. I don't think season 4 is as bad as everyone says it is. Season 2 and 3 are perfect. Let me see. So after that, this is something I started in fall 2018 when it came out, but I never finished it. So I started rewatching Maniac, which is the Cary Fukunaga series that came out on Netflix, stars Emma Stone and Jonah Hill. And I figured, with all this time off, why not get around to it? It's pretty great. It stayed on my mind for a while. There's a lot to think about in it. Brandon, I know you've seen it. Sam, Landon, I'm not sure if you guys have.
I got 2 episodes in and it didn't grab me.
It takes a few. It really took a few episodes. And then, I think it's episodes 7 and 8 are some of the best tension building I've seen in TV in a while.
Isn't it only 8 episodes?
Yeah.
It doesn't get good until episode 7 and 8.
Well, no, I'm not saying it doesn't not get good throughout, but the tension building in episodes 6 and 7 and into 8 is so good. It's not something that I really want to put the time into rewatch, but it was worth watching it in general. And okay, so the last episode we did was we reviewed Popstar, correct? I'm making sure I know where we are.
That's the timeline.
Okay. Is that the correct timeline? Okay, no. So Maniac was the first of, since I had done each of these the last couple of months, I decided to do an Emma Stone marathon, which is only 3.
He's only been in 3 movies?
No, only 3 main ones I hadn't seen yet. I know, Brandon, I think you know this, but she was, I think, since Zombieland, my first big Hollywood crush. Anyway, so I watched The Help, which actually has kind of gotten traction in the last week, not for good things. The Help isn't a bad movie.
Bad movie.
But I can totally see that it is a white savior movie. I'll say that.
It's funny how
it's a good movie. It's a great movie that came out around the same time as The Help.
What?
Life of Bees.
Oh, I never saw that. I wanted to.
The what?
It's pretty great.
I think that was like earlier, because I was like
It was earlier?
2 or 3
I
years.
remember seeing it around the same time as The Help.
2008.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah,
When did The Help come out?
2011, right? 12.
Yeah.
Oh.
11.
It
Yeah.
came out that. Did it really?
Yeah.
2012, The Help came out?
Yeah,
I thought that was
I
like.
put it on my old movie blog. I remember that. I find it funny that when people see protesting about Black Lives, their immediate movie to go to is The Help.
Or Green Book.
Or Green Book. Green Book, yeah.
You know, it's like, man, I want to feel good. I'm watching The Blind Side. Like,
Man, I saw a list that was like movies to watch.
And then you
understand.
posted it on your Instagram story, Adam.
I didn't see Green Book
I
in
saw
there
that, and I
until-
was looking at the movies, and I was like, Green Book? The Help? What the fuck are you doing, Adam?
I didn't see Green Book on my first run through, and then I looked at it later and I was like, I should have crossed that out when I posted it.
Driving Miss Daisy, Radio.
And then I watched Friends with Benefits, which was not really an Emma Stone movie. She's in it for 2 minutes, which is fine.
Is this with Justin Timberlake?
Yeah.
Isn't it like super homophobic, right?
It kind of is.
He says the F word like a few times.
Do they?
He says
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it really hasn't aged well. I remember when it came out, I remember I got that and Crazy Stupid Love really confused because they came out 1 week apart.
You didn't get
and they were like the same movie.
Confused?
Yeah, I was about to say, why didn't you get No Strings Attached confused with Friends
with Benefits?
But
Adam
it's
saw like
fine.
other
Friends not
people.
attached?
Yeah, it's fine. It's nothing I'd go back and rewatch. That same week, this is still the last week of May. I didn't watch the first part the week before because the NASCAR race was on, but I watched both parts back to back that Sunday, which is the Lance Armstrong documentary that ESPN did. Brandon, did you watch any of this?
What?
The Lance Armstrong documentary that ESPN did? It's very hard for me to recommend it because maybe it probably suffered, one, because it's on the heels of The Last Dance, which is light years better. And it's also probably because I don't care about cycling at all. But Lance Armstrong is like the most self-righteous jackass. He still is. He seemed that way back then, and he still is. Like, it's been a few weeks, and I've already forgotten a lot about it, but he comes across as such a terrible person. Like, Brandon, I don't know if you remember when this all happened, like in 2011, 2012, Sam Landon the same, but yeah, he's not a good person. That's probably the worst. I've got a couple others to get to here. That same night, I rewatched 50-50 because it was leaving Hulu, and I think I cried even more than the first time. That movie is great.
You for crying.
Hey, Adam, one second.
Mm-hmm.
Can you slow down on the clicking of your keyboard?
Yeah.
Okay. It's coming through. It's coming through the speakers, and it's being recorded, and it'll be hard for Sam to edit that out.
Okay, I'll tap instead. So I didn't watch anything for a few days. I took kind of a break. But then on this Friday, or Thursday. So I started out, I watched the new Spike Lee short that he did. Did I do it again?
Yeah.
Okay. Hands off the keyboard.
I'm genuinely curious. What are you clicking on?
I'm clicking back and forth between this feed and my letterbox.
Why don't you just put it half and half?
Yeah.
Or I have my other laptop right here. I can just do that too.
Yeah.
I'll just do that.
You don't necessarily need to look at us. I mean, I understand we're all very handsome, but like, oh, geez, not that handsome.
Okay, so Spike Lee's done a couple short films. I'll get to the other one in a minute. He did one called Three Brothers, which is super cuts, kind of a bad way to describe it given the content, but where he cuts together the deaths of Radio Raheem in Do the Right Thing, Eric Garner from 2014, I want to say, and George Floyd from this year. And that was pretty hard to watch, given that they're all a little different, but the fact that the first one was it was more life imitating art in the sense I still haven't seen Do the Right Thing, which I need to fix that. But like I've never watched the full video George Floyd video. I don't want to put myself through that, or I probably should. But like I didn't know that he was like calling out for his mom and stuff when that was happening, and like it took me a while to get over that. Um, then I watched Jack Reacher with Tom Cruise, which is it's pretty good. The first one's pretty good.
First Jack Reacher, kind of underrated in my opinion. It's got a lot
Yeah.
of weird things in it.
Yeah, I enjoy that. I watched Michael Clayton the same day, the George Clooney movie, because it was on HBO. It's fine. The script is great, but I can't say I'm the biggest fan of like that kind of legal drama. The next day, I watched the second Jack Reacher, which is not good.
Trash.
Yeah, it's kind of bad.
There's one good.
I also watched
Trash
Sorry?
Reacher.
Hell yeah, Brandon. All right, we can end the show. All right, thank you guys for tuning in to Cinemania.
I watched on the heels of Community, since I was still kind of had that in my mind. I watched Harmontown, which is the 2014 documentary that follows Dan Harmon, who created Community, through a tour he does of his podcast throughout the U.S. I don't love him as a person, but it's really interesting because he and the documentary don't really try to hide anything about himself. Like all his flaws are out there for, everyone to judge him on, which I kind of appreciated. Okay. And then I watched this little documentary on YouTube about a community art show thing that this place did in California, which is fine. I'm just going to run through some of these that are more forgettable. That Sunday, which is the 8th Sunday in a row that ESPN had a 30 for 30 production on, was Be Water, which is the Bruce Lee documentary, which is fascinating. It was really interesting to see how much he had to go through in his time in Hollywood and how much he struggled to get roles, and then he eventually returned to China and did movies there.
Does it talk about how he got beat up by Brad Pitt?
It does not, no.
Point.
It's really fascinating, and it's really sad how the movie he did, I think it was Enter the Dragon, that premiered, had this great reception. All these people were there. He didn't live to see it. He died I think a week before. But it's really good. I highly recommend that. That Friday, this was the week I started watching Ken Burns' baseball documentary, which I'm going to talk about next week. So there's nothing for a while. And then on Friday, I watched Spike Lee's short, New York, New York, which came out a month or two ago. It's just shots of New York in quarantine. And then I watched The Five Bloods, which came out on Netflix that morning, and we'll get to. Sunday, I watched Long Gone Summer, which is the final and 9th Sunday in a row that ESPN's airing a 30 for 30 production. Brandon, did you watch this? Okay. So Long Gone Summer, in short, is basically about the 1998 baseball season. Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire trying to beat Babe Ruth or Roger Maris's single season record of 61 home runs, which no one had done since 61. And they both beat it. McGwire had 70, Sosa 66. Barry Bonds beat it a few years later. And if you guys don't know, Sosa and McGwire and Bonds were all later they all took steroids. And I gave it 4.5 stars. I'll say that. My criticism just lies in them not giving enough time to the steroid thing, which I think would have been good. But I will say I saw a lot of criticism. Okay, so Mark McGwire owned up to using steroids. He said, it was stupid, but there were no rules to. Yeah, I was getting there. McGwire is he owned up to it. I'd say he was mature about it. And a lot of the criticism I saw said, they said it portrayed Sammy Sosa as a flamboyant show-off, but that's not the documentary. That's Sammy Sosa. He literally said he did everything to see if he'd be on TV that night. So I don't fully understand that criticism, but it's also a pretty good documentary, and it might help that it's just because I love baseball. I don't know if you guys want to talk about Atlanta at all.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about it after the
Yeah.
Five Bloods.
Yeah. So that's what I watched, other than what the three things we'll be talking about later in the show.
Wow, 3.
So Wayne, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I might have to leave in the middle because I ordered something from GoPuff.
Okay.
But can you go first, actually?
Yeah,
Just in
sure.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I watched like a good few things. I watched some TV shows first. I'll get to those first, and I'll get to the movies. So I didn't get to finish all of it because I've watched it before, but I mean, because it got off of Netflix like a few days ago, which was really sad because I wanted to finish it for time. But I took this season of Mad Men, which is like one of the best television shows I think ever. It's really it did not age like a single day. Like it ended like 5 years ago. It's kind of hard to believe, but it's so phenomenal. It's one of like the seminal pieces of like television and especially like period television like ever. Have you guys ever seen like Mad Men before?
No.
Sam has a question.
Yeah.
A teacher. How many episodes do I have to watch to just start enjoying Mad Men?
It's all right. We talked about this before, but like I think it's great from the jump, but I think in order for you to really get enveloped into the story, it takes like a season.
Okay.
Because it's the first season's the weakest, but it's still great. Once you get in the second season and really the third season, like it starts to get phenomenal. And so it's not like,
What about the 4th season?
4th season's phenomenal. 5th season is amazing. 6th season is great. 7th season incredible. But it's not like oh, you got to watch you got to watch the first 10 episodes and the 11th one's great because they're all good. It just is a really, really slow burn. And it's like very, very, very methodical. And like
the payoff is worth it.
Huh?
But the payoff is worth it once you're sticking with it.
Yes. Like the payoff is worth it. And like all the characters are so interesting. And like the most interesting thing in art to me has always been kind of the study of the 50s and 60s, how it's just like this era in decay, and like how it's painted now, looking at the 50s, as this era of like, oh, it's prosperity, economic prosperity. It's post-war grandeur. Everyone was doing great. Everyone was making money. Everyone was happy. But in reality, everyone was depressed. Like the husbands were like struggling with their sexuality. They couldn't like be themselves. They were like, a lot of them went to war. They came back. They didn't get to like, there was no kind of therapy or anything for them. They didn't get like any kind of like counseling. They were all like messed up in the head. The wives were depressed. They couldn't get through the days without Klonopin and like antidepressants. The kids like had emotionally like distant parents. They couldn't talk to anybody. Like everyone was so sad, and all that mattered to anybody was status, sex, and money. And it's so interesting seeing how all these people who kind of like either succeed or kind of like or don't succeed in these like react to different situations in their lives. And they're all so like every single character is so interesting. And like it slowly breaks down the conceptions that we have currently of the 50s and 60s. That's this time of like prosperity, and it's really like this time of really unhappiness and sadness. And it's an incredible series. Like it's really, 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 really good. Like yeah, and the character of Don Draper might be one of my favorite characters ever. Like it's a really, really great show. But you have to get past some really terrible sexism, and it's like the women are treated awful in the show, but like it's period appropriate. Like it makes sense how the actual times went. But yeah, so I watched some of Mad Men. Second show I went to, which Landon probably wants to talk about a little bit. I watched the second season of Rami. It's great. It's really, really good. I'm gonna watch the third season, but if some stuff doesn't happen, I'm not gonna watch the fourth season because it's one of those shows that you watch and you get so disgusted and so annoyed, and like, but because like I talked about this with the Landon, because Landon and I talked about this like after I finished the second season, and the character of Rami, who's the main character in the show, he's the least
Is one of the most unlikable characters.
And I think he's the least interesting character. He's the most unlikable character by far. Like I think he's so unlikable, and you don't agree? You don't think? Like I don't know because
no, I think he's really unlikable. I still think he's a very interesting character.
In the first season, maybe because like I just wanted them to get more into like the struggle between like between like I guess Muslim values and traditional Muslim values, and like kind of because he just kind of says the same thing over and over. It's like, oh, this is haram. Like I can't do this. He has that same argument for like 2 seasons in a row, and it's just like, okay, that's cool. Like when like are you gonna move past to try to like go to something more? But he's just like it's the same thing over and over again, and like I get that's part of his character because he's such a hypocrite. He's such a terrible hypocrite. That's part of his character.
But what I think kind of why I love season 2 so much, and Rami's character in season 2 especially, is because you start to actually see some growth, and you start to see him put into practice what he preaches or what he's been trying to preach, in like eating food that is haram, actually trying to avoid sex, actually trying to get into a marriage that will benefit his life and his just everything about him as a person. But where the season kind of ends is it shows you everything that you've been seeing throughout the season has kind of been a falsehood almost. And I think that's what's kind of brilliant about season 2 is because you're like, oh man, I'm really actually starting to like Rami a lot. And then something happens near the end of the season. You're like, actually, everything that I saw this season was him trying to convince himself and the people around him, and convinced me. He convinced the audience, I feel like, that he was changing for the good, even though he still had his selfish values at heart. And that's why I think season 2 is kind of brilliant. But
brilliant.
Like, I think that's why he's.
I think that he's interesting, but he's not interesting enough for me to keep like rooting for him and watching him because like he's interesting to a certain point, but like at a certain point you keep making the same shitty mistakes and keep doing the same exact thing, and like you can see, I guess there's like growth. Like you can see growth, like when he's with Steve in the hotel room and he does the thing, he does it, and like it's really funny. It's like, man, maybe he actually trying to put his own like kind of like beliefs and kind of like selfishness aside. But like, yeah, and it's like if you guys gotta watch it, but like it's a really really funny scene.
It's a very awkward and uncomfortable and cringy scene. But God, is it fantastic. And the payoff to that joke is magnificent.
And the ending's kind of sweet too, honestly.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of, 1 second.
Yo, Paul?
Hello?
Can you get me something, Landon?
Landon's getting his numbs.
Landon, can you give me some Reese's?
Cool. Yeah, can you give me some? Can you give me some games? My phone. Games.
But Rami, good show.
Huh?
Rami, it's a good show.
Yeah, Rami is.
Rami, my bad.
You're good. It's a good show. It's very very good, and like, Len probably would have talked about it too. But all the best episodes of Rami have nothing to do with Rami because like. The show, literally, because like it often diverges and like focuses on outside characters like Rami's sister or his mom or his like father, who's like the most interesting character in the show, honestly. Or his uncle, who's really interesting too. And all those episodes are light years better than Rami's episodes because because Rami, he's had more episodes, but they all kind of like center around the same conflict of like, ooh, how do I be a good Muslim while also trying to like assimilate. Which is interesting at the core, but like it's the same thing over and over again. I feel like, and like I feel like Rami doesn't really do any growth like in those episodes, but like with his family, all the episodes involving them are so different, and like they're all so funny and so entertaining. And like I feel like Rami, I feel like he's not that funny too. I don't think Rami is very funny. I don't think like Len, do you disagree?
I agree with you.
I don't think he's funny. I think
I don't think his character is funny, but he writes majority of the episodes, and I think a lot of the episodes are funny.
yeah, but like none of the jokes involve like him though. Like all of them involve like like his mom and like his father and like the mother episodes like when it all involves her, like they're always so funny. And like the end of like in the second season, his mom has an episode, and like the final scene is it's so funny. Like she's just like fuck you, Trump. You're not gonna grab my. I'll grab you. You grab my. You grab it. Like she's so funny. Like she's so good. But like
but season 2 has some of the best episodes. It has the best episodes of Rami.
Yeah, I agree. I
like no matter how you feel about the last episode, it is hard to watch, but it is great. It's a great
episode. Yeah.
It's like I just like I've never been more angry than watching that last episode. Just everything that Rami is saying and he's doing, like in those like last 10 or 15 minutes, I'm like, you need to shut up. Please, just shut up. Please. You can't do not do this to yourself.
Yeah, he's so fucking funny.
He does it.
He does it. And like it's some of the worst shit I've ever seen like a protagonist do. And like it's so bad. Like and we also had this conversation too. Like I think he's a bad person, but you don't think he's a bad person.
I don't think he's a bad person.
Okay, because
I think he genuinely cares about people. The people that are involved in season 2. I think he genuinely does care about them. I think he just has some flaws within himself, and he does end up hurting the people around him. But I don't think he ever intends on doing this. Well, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but we talked about this. I don't think what happened is a majority his fault.
Which I agree with.
Yeah.
But like, it's not just that thing. It's like, because he's consistently told by people around him that like, you do shit that hurts people. And like, you shouldn't do this. And it's like, and I think he knows that, but he does it because he knows he has the capacity to hurt people. He knows he's done it before, but he doesn't stop himself from doing it. It always goes back to what he wants and what he feels is best for him. And like, it's like, you can make that mistake. You can be like, oh, like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like I care about people, but I want to change. But like, you do the same thing over and over again, or told the same thing over and over again. Like, you can't keep doing this because you're going to actually hurt people. But like, he does it anyways. And it's that intentionally knowing that you have that capacity and still doing it is what makes him a bad person, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like these kind of conversations and like the debates around Rami as a character kind of show how interesting he is as a character. I feel like personally.
I guess I feel like it's pretty like cut and dry though, honestly, with him. Like I don't know if like the complexity, because like I feel like
we'll see in season 3 because it's like
I feel because it all hinges on season 3. I feel like
because he literally has nowhere to go from here. He only can go up. Is where I see the end of season 2.
Yeah, he can go up.
He is at the lowest of points. He could go right back down. That is true. Like season 3 could fall into the trappings of season 1 and season 2 and show him growing as a person and then him failing completely. But season 1, I think the way that season 1 ends, it shows him kind of grow as a person. But then season 2, it's like actually he hasn't really grown as a person. He's still kind of the same old person. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about episode 8 and 9. Because I know you love 9 and I love episode 8.
I love both.
The best episodes of season 2 don't have to deal with Rami. And that's a fact. That's how it was in season 1 as well.
Yeah.
But I believe episode 8 in season 2 has really, really great editing. And the way that they edit together certain scenes is like gives you like the maximum emotional impact an episode like that could give you. I feel like I was like a wreck after that episode.
Honestly, like I changed my opinion because I feel like I like episode 8 more now after thinking about it, and like because that opening scene,
it hits so hard because like you can see how much he actually cares for Rami, and you can see
He loves him so much. And
Yeah.
like thinking about
He
that,
loves him so much, and you can see how America has changed him so much, and how he doesn't actually feel like he has accomplished anything, and it's so sad. It's so sad,
yeah.
and it's just like he's the most interesting character.
Yeah.
He legit is the most interesting character.
And like while thinking about the episode, I just keep tying it back to the season finale of season 1, where it's like his grandfather finally goes to meet him, and like the lineage and like how all three of them kind of have these really, really toward relationships with their fathers. And like when he's writing back to him and he's like recording the thing, and it's just like, oh my god. And thinking like what ends up happening to his dad, like he never gets to see. Oh, sorry, like, I don't want to, but yeah, it's just like it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then also like the final shot of that episode, or like the final scene of that episode, when he goes out and like there's a dog in the season, and it plays kind of an integral role, I feel like, and like I feel it like the way that the dog is used in that final scene, it's just so heartwarming, heart-wrenching. It's everything that it could have been. And then it's followed up by an episode that is also depressing, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to talk too much more about it because I feel like we've been talking about it for a while. But
yeah. So yeah, I'll move on. But like bottom line, Rami season 1, season 2, both phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, really great. So yeah.
Mahershala Ali is great in season 2, by the way. I feel like we should mention that.
Yeah, he's fucking incredible, and like, and that final scene.
Dude, that final scene, ooh.
Oh my god! Like
that's how I felt, and then he actually voiced it. I was like, yes, this is how I'm feeling right now.
Literally, God, man, he just like, man, he's good. He's really fucking good. Man.
You know this Mahershala Ali guy? He's pretty good.
He kind of act like, I don't know. Has he ever been nominated for anything?
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
Brand new actor off the.
I think he was nominated for Green Book.
Oh yeah. That's true. Oh yeah, didn't he?
He won.
He won for like Alita Battle Angel, right?
Oh yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That was his audition Blade, right? Alita Battle Angel.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. That's why he got it. Yeah.
Hey man, not as good as Edward Norton in that movie.
Nope.
Oh my
okay,
god.
So, all right. Those are the last TV shows I watched, but I'm just gonna go through the movies I watched really quickly. So I watched Cold War again, which slaps.
Oi, oi, oi.
I'm not gonna say it, but it's oi, oi, oi. Oh, man, the editing in that film too.
What a great movie. What a great movie.
Need to rewatch.
Oof, yeah. We gotta watch it again, man. Honestly, it hits. Man, it's like it's one of those films that like you can watch over and over again and get something new out of it every time. And that final scene where they're just at the thing together and just sitting there, the rock.
It's just so crazy how they were able to pack in an epic story within an hour and a half. 25 hour and a half. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's like a masterclass in pacing, is that movie right there.
Yeah.
It's never boring. It's always engaging.
You know, you could watch Cold War twice and still not be done with Avengers Endgame.
It's true. It's true.
You'll get more out of both viewings.
Yeah, very true. All right. So I also watched Pan's Labyrinth. Second time watch. Fantastic film. I think it's Guillermo del Toro's best film.
Probably.
It's kind of like this dissecting of the fairy tale and kind of what makes a fairy tale work and kind of what makes it so like, and also it's kind of melding with kind of mid-20th century kind of like conflicts and kind of comparing how each of them kind of meet up, and it's so brilliant. It's like one it's one of the best films I think of the century so far. Like it's kind of I think it's perfect, honestly.
Wait, what movie? Sorry, I kind of zoned out.
Huh?
Pan's Labyrinth. Is that what we're talking about? Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pan's
I
Labyrinth. Perfect.
with you.
Still need to rewatch it.
I feel like that movie gets too much hate. A lot of people are just like, I hate this movie because of how like campy and like fairy tale-y it is, but like
It's Labyrinth.
it's not even that campy. It's not even that campy.
I don't think it's campy.
Like,
I think it's because of like the
Pacific Rim.
yeah. I think it's just because of like the but I think it's just because of like the tree scene with the frog. That's literally because whenever people say it's like campy or whatever, I think that's it's like, oh, she goes in the frog's like stomach. It's like that's the only one. Like, and like the way it kind of takes all these genres and melds it into one. Like it's funny. It's also beautiful, and it's so heartbreaking at the same time.
Oh my God, the ending. Ooh.
So good. And like where he does a thing and he leaves her there and he exits and then and what she says to him hits and she's just like it's.
I'm getting chills.
When was the last time you guys watched it?
It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, honestly.
Last time I watched it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago. I really need to.
It's on Netflix.
Well, I don't want
haven't seen it yet, no.
but I own the Guillermo del Toro Criterion box set. So
Really?
so far, I've only watched Kronos from that box set.
Ooh, look at me. I'm Sam. I own Criterion.
Hi, it's me, Sam. I'm better than you because I watch Criterion movies. Not true at all. No. Clarify.
But yeah, Pan's Labyrinth, phenomenal film, amazing. Next up, I watched because I've had kind of a tough few weeks, so I watched my comfort movie, Chef, starring Jon Favreau, directed by Jon Favreau.
The last three episodes, every time you're like, I watch Chef.
Yeah. By Jon Favreau. It's a masterpiece. Like I don't really know what else to say about it. It's a masterpiece. Like Jon Favreau, it's the best film he's ever made. It's the best film he ever will make.
Better than Cowboys and Aliens? I don't think so. I don't know, dude.
I don't know, man. Cowboys and Aliens. It's a slapper, but it's not as good as Chef.
Not a slapper.
It's a slapper. It's really good. But yeah, Chef. That grilled cheese. I don't like grilled cheeses, but that grilled cheese is like, it's kind of incredible. Like I'm gonna make it tomorrow because like it's I'm making it for like a very special person in my life. It's her birthday, so I'm making it for her. She's yeah.
Oh, I said happy birthday.
I will. Well, technically it's her birthday today, but like I'm saying her tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh,
What the hell, dude?
Yeah. But yeah, she's
let her in the call.
Huh?
Let her in.
Let her in. Hey, I know you're probably with your family right now, but fuck them. Get in, loser. We're talking about life. We're talking about Chef. Well, yeah.
What does she think about Chef?
She hasn't seen it.
You watched it? Hey, how has she not seen it?
I failed, honestly. That's my job. That's my job, and I failed at it. Honestly, I gotta have to do it.
Oh my god.
Well, yeah. Chef, phenomenal film.
Chef.
I also watched like recently. I watched Baby Driver.
Hey.
Good movie. Very good movie.
It's Edgar Wright's worst movie, better than most movies.
That's my take too. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's still a really great movie. Lily James, great in that movie.
I think at some point she's really good in it. I don't think she's that great in it. I'm not the biggest fan of performance. I'm not the biggest fan of like. I think Ansel Elgort. What do you guys think of Ansel Elgort?
I like him in Baby Driver. That's all I really know him for, to be honest with you.
Same boat.
I haven't watched The Goldfinch, and I haven't watched Cancer Movie, whatever it's called.
Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah.
Goldfinch. Slaps.
I know, you told us.
Not a good film, but it's good. All right. Anyways, so yeah, Baby Driver. I give it a solid 3 out of 5. 3.5 maybe out of 5.
Fair. That's fair.
All right, so next up, any of you guys ever watched The Watermelon Woman?
I've been dying to watch it.
Sam, like, come on, man, you gotta watch it.
It's on the Criterion Channel. I know. I need to get my history in. I need to. Okay. Have you ever seen the video made by Brows Held High about the movie?
No.
It's really fascinating because it is like inherently about like because the guy that runs the channel is white, so it's inherently about being a white person and trying to like have an opinion on Black media and like what that means. It's really interesting and well done, but ultimately is more about analyzing the film and discussing what makes it so great and innovative and fascinating, and like the idea of like creating your own representation because no one else will. That sort of whole mentality. It's so interesting and makes you really want to watch the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a whole exercise in independent filmmaking, and it kind of kicked off a whole movement of not just Black filmmaking, but Black LGBTQIA filmmaking. And it's such a pioneering film, and I think without it, because like I talked about this with a lot of my friends before who have seen the film, a lot of my Black friends who have seen the film, and it's because before Watermelon Woman, because there weren't really a lot of films about just the lives of Black people, because it was either about them being slaves or fighting for their rights or doing like, I don't know, it's either them in like pain or trauma or something like that.
It's always like a dramatic angle.
It's always dramatic. But like with Watermelon Woman, like it's literally just Black people doing shit, like making movies and like working at video stores. Like it's like, and it's so revolutionary, but it's like sad because it's revolutionary, because that shouldn't be the reason why it's revolutionary, because like the fact that it's the first time, and like there wasn't a film like it before, but it was literally made in 1997. It was 96, 97, something like that. But like the fact that it came so late, it's really sad, but it's also like a super funny film. And it's so sweet and so funny and like really, really interesting as well. Because it's also kind of a bit of film history too.
What movie?
Watermelon Woman. Watermelon Woman.
I've never seen it.
It's really, really, really good. It's about this woman. She's a lesbian, and she's a Black lesbian, and she learns about this mammy. She was like, I don't think she's like a kind of amalgamation of a bunch of like characters of it, but she works at a video store. She loves film. She's a filmmaker, and she decides to make a documentary about the Watermelon Woman, who was this like old kind of built like Black star during like silent era films in like 30s and black and white films. And she slowly learns throughout the process of making the documentary about her that she was a lesbian, and she's trying to like, it's about her just kind of trying to like find more about the film, but also it intercuts her making the film and kind of trying to make like interviewing people for the film, for the documentary, and it intercuts that with her and her kind of life, and she's getting into a relationship with this white woman, and so her like her family and her friends, and it's kind of just like splits it up between those two things, and it draws a really interesting parallel between like Black like gay women of that time to Black gay women now. And I don't know, it's a really, really, really great film. And I was telling Sam about it because like before like The Watermelon Woman, Black films were just about Black people being slaves or like fighting for their rights or stuff like that. But like we never really seen a Black film about Black people just like doing shit, and like especially like Black women doing shit and Black women like making films and everything. And like it's a film that I feel like anybody who's into like movies or film would really like, or anybody who is a filmmaker would like, because at the end of the day, it's a movie about like a filmmaker trying to make a film. And I think it's really, really big. It's just on that merit alone, it's really, really great. But there's a lot of other stuff about it.
I'll be back. I'm getting my mac and cheese.
But yeah,
nice. All right.
Really, really, really good. I love it. Did we talk? Because I don't think we talked. We talked about like while we weren't on the show. But I watched Sorry to Bother You again, which is really, really, really great. I love it. I think it's. I don't know what I rate on Letterboxd. I should change to a 5 though. I think it's pretty perfect.
I have it as 5. I hope I do. I adore that movie with all my heart.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. Like
that's a movie I kind of wish I could watch for the first time again.
Right?
Because there's nothing like that first time watching it and just like seeing the progression of the movie.
No need to change it. You guys both have it at 5.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you. But
Adam, what do you think of Sorry to Bother You?
I think I gave it 4. I think I need to rewatch it again. It's been a while.
Great movie.
Great. And like, because back to what you were saying, Sam, about watching it for the first time, like my girl Angelica, she hadn't seen it before. So getting to watch her like react to the film and watch that final scene, oof.
Because I think we talked about this. And I forget if it was on the show or not, but I think Sorry to Bother You was a movie that almost stumbles the landing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It almost has an ending that is like way too dark and nihilistic for what it's been building up to the whole time.
Yeah.
And then the credits are rolling and you're like, there's no way. And then the final moment brings back that spirit that's been there the whole time and feels like, you know, this fighting spirit of like fighting for revolution and for your rights and everything like that.
It's a great film to watch right now, especially.
Oh, I can imagine. I can only imagine, dude.
Such a great film because with all this conversation about capitalism and how slavery never really ended and now it just changed forms and how capitalism goes one-on-one with racism and white supremacy, it's really, really, really great. And kind of how white people, especially like neoliberals and liberalism, how it kind of co-opts all this Black culture and expects a certain reaction out of Black people. And like it's so culturally relevant. I think it's really, really great to watch right now. And if like none of you guys have watched it right now, I would highly recommend to watch it again.
And I'll say one of my my favorite moments in the film, which I think is sort of like the epitome of everything we've been talking about, is when Armie Hammer is explaining to Cash like his plan, and he's like, and he's, I don't want to go into specifics to spoil it, but he's like, you'll be the person managing this, or like you know, you'll be the person like above all of this, and Lakeith Stanfield is like, you mean like a manager? And he's like, I don't want you to be a manager. I want you to be like the Martin Luther King. And it's like, oh, like it's kind of exactly what you're talking about. It's like capitalism, but trying to disguise it as like social rights or
like as progressives,
yes.
Yeah, or like liberalism, yeah.
Exactly. And it's just so perfect.
It's a perfect film.
Like Saturday Night Live.
Did you watch the video I sent?
No, yeah. I've been meaning to, Brandon. I saw you added me with it.
It's a Saturday Night Live crowd because Armie Hammer's character in the film watches Saturday Night Live and eats that shit up. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, great film. Love it. I think that's it. Yeah, I watched The Five Bloods. We'll talk about that in a second, though. Also, great thing to watch with The Five Bloods too. Sorry to bother you. I know there's a really interesting link between the two. I'm going to talk about it when we talk about Five Bloods, but it's a very interesting link between the two, I feel like.
Is it the great soundtrack?
That too, but no, not that. But that's also a great link between the two. But yeah, I kind of wanted, that's all I watched. I kind of wanted Landon's thoughts on Baby Driver though, because I don't know if we talked about it in a while.
I don't like it.
Okay.
I will not explain myself.
Great soundtrack though. Great music.
Okay, yeah, it has good music. But it's also just a boring story. Very run-of-the-mill story.
Yeah.
That, to me, is the fun part, but I get it.
But also, Ansel Elgort, terrible. I hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Also
Kevin.
Look at the
Spacey.
Apparently, Timothy Chalamet, who was friends with Ansel Elgort, spread chlamydia like wildfire around NYU.
You know? I'm not.
You hear about it on Twitter?
I saw something about it. Yeah.
What'd you say, Landon?
Wait, Ansel Elgort and Timothy Chalamet did?
No, just Timothy Chalamet.
Oh.
But yeah.
Together, it was a plan.
It was a plan. They did it together.
Like, let's both get chlamydia.
All right, boys, let's do it.
They had sex with each other, and then they're like, all right.
Right, that's how it started.
Yeah. But who was patient zero? Was it Ansel Elgort or Timothy Chalamet? If Timothy Chalamet and Ansel Elgort had sex, who gave who chlamydia?
I think Timothy.
Yeah.
I feel like Timothy is.
This is the start of my true crime podcast. Who gave who chlamydia?
American Vandal season 3.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot to mention, I started watching American Vandal again too.
I haven't seen the second season, but first season, pretty great.
Great.
I haven't seen second season either.
How do you feel about the first season though, Landon?
I think it's a masterpiece.
I love it.
It's fantastic.
I'm just gonna say,
What I love about the first season of American Vandal is like, yeah, it's really funny, but it's also a really engaging true crime documentary.
yeah.
Like
About,
it's genuinely like a really well-made story.
About like the education system in America and how
Right.
like a lot of people are set to fail, and it's very, very engaging, very interesting.
And how to give the perfect hand job.
Yeah. On a dock.
Just
On a dock.
just
So good.
It's perfect.
the part that always gets me is when they like recreate the party with the
Yeah.
Snapchat videos and these like with hours of footage. Oh god.
So good.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's all I watched. So Landon, you want to go up?
Yeah.
All right.
So what did I watch? I don't really have a list. I'll kind of do bullet points, I guess. I watched Man of Steel today, and I want to talk about something. When are we gonna stop pretending that Man of Steel is not great? When are people going to realize that Man of Steel is a great movie? I need people to wake up. People legit just need to wake up that it's a good movie.
People.
Oh, hour and 15 minutes, they're just punching each other through buildings. Fuck you, Adam. First off, that quote unquote hour and 15 minutes where they're punching each other through buildings, it's also intercut showing the ground level and showing how this impacts people, and it's showing how this destruction is actually kind of terrible, and what is happening is actually a detriment to the people around it. Also, this is Superman's first day being Superman. Don't forget that. This is legit his first day putting on the suit. He doesn't know how to control situations like this, especially if you're fighting somebody that's just as powerful as you. Thirdly, Superman is so boring in this movie. I would say he's the most interesting he's ever been in any movie in Man of Steel. Would you like to debate me on that, Adam? You haven't seen the movie in 5 years. Tell me why he's boring. Do it. Tell me why
I just don't find Henry Cavill interesting. I really don't. And it doesn't help that I don't really like Zack Snyder's filmmaking.
His filmmaking in this movie is actually fantastic.
Everything's gray and dark and dull, and I don't care I've never really been that enthralled with Superman at all. I always thought Batman was much more interesting, which I know is a pretty cliche take, but it's been probably a decade since I watched I've seen the Christopher Reeves, all the first three, and the one made in like 2006, with what's his face, and
Brandon Routh.
Yeah, that guy.
Sir, do not insult Todd Ingram, okay? The third Evil X.
Oh, that's right.
Dylan.
I forgot about that. Okay. But I don't know. I've just never found him a compelling character, which probably doesn't help. There was a NASCAR scheme run for Man of Steel, so that's something, I guess.
Yeah, Superman has never really been interesting, like anything but he's the most interesting he's ever been in Man of Steel, though. I will concede that.
He's actually a character in Man of Steel.
Yeah. And that
first hour, I can concede that too.
First hour and a half is legitimately great. It's so good.
I would say the whole movie is legitimately great. Rewatching it, I want to know the actual criticism of the last hour because I don't really understand it. You guys can sit back and watch a Marvel movie that literally has the same amount of destruction, even more half the time, and be like, oh, this is fine. But as soon as Zack Snyder makes it and has like superheroes blowing up buildings and shit, you guys are like, oh, this is so dumb and bad. Why? I don't get it. I legit don't get it.
Explain it. Like,
I think it's
because the Marvel movies have more interestingly developed characters.
I don't think it's shot very well too. I think it's kind of at times it's really incoherent and like it's very, very it's like headache inducing. I don't think it's like
I agree with that.
Yeah. But like, and I think, okay, I can see the thing, because do you really think Zack Snyder planned for the whole angle to be like, oh, Superman, he might be a danger to society? Because I mean, I could see that, and like if he did, like I guess I could kind of like buy it, but at the same time, I don't know if he has like the subtlety or the kind of like he's a filmmaker capable of the subtlety to do that, or like the.
What are you talking about?
You know, like and like Batman vs Superman, where the whole story crux centers around, oh, Superman destroyed this entire city, like, and like I don't know if Zack Snyder would have included that in the second in like maybe like Batman vs Superman if like the criticism of the first sub wouldn't have been, oh, like he just destroyed the entire city, he just did all this stuff, but like at the same time, if he like I could go either way, honestly. Like I could see, I guess he could have like meant to do that, but I'm not sure, because like how I feel about the film kind of hinges on that fact and whether or not he meant to do it, honestly.
But as a standalone movie,
Huh?
as a standalone movie, I understand why that happened.
Yeah.
Like, what else? Like, it's not like Dragon Ball where you have these two superpowered beings and they're like, hey, let's go to this distant island where there's no people so we won't fuck up anything. You have this evil being just sent down to Earth and they're like, hey, we're going to fuck up this entire place. And
Hey,
of
Michael
course, the
Shannon's
fight
pretty
is going
great.
to... Yeah,
Michael
yeah.
Shannon's pretty great.
Of course, the fight's going to go to populated areas. There's no way it wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I don't get, and I think that the way he intercuts that last hour with the ground level showing the Daily Planet and the people within the Daily Planet actually witnessing everything that's occurring is kind of brilliant. And there's a really beautiful scene where like they legit all think they're about to die, and they kind of just like they all look at each other and they kind of accept it. And I think that scene's actually really powerful. But you also have to think that like Zod's plan was to basically destroy the entire planet. So I don't know.
That's fair.
I think the cinematography is actually kind of great in the movie too, especially in the first hour.
Yeah, I agree.
Brandon?
I agree. 100%.
Like when they have like that montage near the beginning where they show him as like a young child, like wearing the red cape, so on and so forth. And then there's like the scene where he, like saves the tanker from exploding, and there's that like glorious shot of him like holding up the tanker and there's like things all around him. I think that's like really great. I think it's one of Zack Snyder's best movies. And Adam, I really just want you to give it a second chance. I really do.
All right, that's fair. I might get around to it at some point.
If you don't buy 3 weeks from now, I'm going to recommend it. This is a threat.
Please recommend it. Like I want, because like I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen it in like 2 years. But
honestly, I'd be okay with that.
I've also never seen it, so
it would also force me to watch it. So
I don't know.
I will say there's like this weird kind of like unmentioned subplot that's occurring with like one of the generals that finds like one of the aliens sexy, and there's like this weird sexual tension between like the general and one of Zod's like minions. It's kind of weird, but I think Henry Cavill gives a great performance. Most interesting Superman's been because of Henry Cavill, and it actually shows the kind of conflict between being human and being a god, basically. And I think Henry Cavill kind of portrays that really well. But then it's all ruined with Batman versus Superman, and then Justice League. But,
which are both trash.
Don't disagree.
The trailer
I want you to know, Adam, the only reason I watched this is because you put it on your list, and I wanted to see if I was actually crazy. But
wait,
like,
which one are you talking about? I'm sorry.
The 3 worst superhero movies ever made, and you put it on there. And like I wanted to rewatch it because I was like, am I crazy? Or like, is it actually bad? So I went back and rewatched it. I'm not trying to be mean to you, Adam, but the fact that you think Man of Steel is worse than Suicide Squad actually boggles my mind. It legit boggles my mind.
I remember having a tiny little bit more fun watching Suicide Squad than Man of Steel. That's what I remember. But I couldn't tell you much about either movie, so.
But Adam, didn't you say that like you conceded that Man of Steel was a better movie though?
From a filmmaking perspective, sure. I think the characters are more interesting in Suicide Squad, but
What? What? Wait, what? Okay. What's interesting? All right, tell me what's interesting about Slipknot, the man who doesn't not anything.
No, the performances are more interesting. Like the talent. Like I'm not a big Henry Cavill fan or a Superman fan, but I thought that maybe not everybody, but like at least like Will Smith and Margot Robbie made those two characters a little more interesting than they would have been.
Hey, Adam, do you know Killer Croc watches BET?
Adam,
I forgot about that.
I want you to watch Mission Impossible Fallout, and I also want you to watch The Witcher Netflix series.
Mission Impossible Fallout is great. Henry Cavill is great in that.
Henry Cavill is not an interesting actor.
It doesn't, but I hadn't seen that before I watched Man of Steel, so that probably didn't help.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, so if you watch The Witcher, where his character is literally meant to be someone who is genetically enhanced to have no emotions and is still one of the most charismatic people on that show. Like, he's just so good in that role. Like, I want you to tell me that he's not an interesting actor after seeing that. After finding all the great ways to whisper fuck.
And growl.
And growl at people.
Growling in The Witcher.
Dude, he has a whole scene where he has to walk up to a witch that's got an entire town to like have a weird orgy, and he just goes, he has to find a funny way to say, "I brought you juice," and he does. He sells it, man. I don't know if Witcher's a good show, but I have a good time watching it. That's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, just I want people to know that Man of Steel is the best movie that's come out of the DCEU.
Shazam, Birds of Prey.
They're not in the DCEU, Adam.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not.
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey might be.
Is a direct sequel to Suicide Squad, and Henry Cavill Superman is in Shazam.
No, he's not.
He is. He shows up at the end of the movie.
I did not see Henry Cavill.
But it's the suit. It's the suit, okay?
It's supposed to be.
Come on. Come on.
I don't know. I think Man of Steel gets too much hate. I also watched I watched Rami. I talked about that with Brandon. I watched a little movie called Shirley from Decker, director of Madeline's Madeline. This is her follow-up to Madeline's Madeline. And let me tell you something, boys. She did it. She made a movie that is just as good as Madeline's Madeline. So, when are we going to start calling her one of the best directors working today? Does it start today?
I mean, after I see Shirley, probably.
The reason... Okay, so let me get serious. The reason I love Shirley, I don't think it's a movie for everyone. I'm going to be honest. Same with like Madeline's Madeline. But like this is a very different kind of feeling that I got. It's very slow, but it's very purposeful in its slowness. And while I was thinking about it, I realized that the movie talks about the connection between love, art, manipulation, and betrayal, and how love, manipulation, and betrayal kind of create art in every facet. If it's not all three of them, it's one of those. And I believe the movie succeeds in portraying that through the amazing performances, through imagery that Josephine Decker throws throughout the movie, and then also just some horrific, I wouldn't say it's a scary movie, but there's some horrific ideals that linger above the audience throughout the entire movie. And I also think it's a great commentary. Like Madeline's Madeline kind of, it deals with this idea of mental health and like the corruption of mental health. And this talks, like with Madeline's Madeline, it kind of shows the downfall of somebody's mental psyche and how it can collapse so easily. And Shirley, it kind of shows how it can be rebuilt, if you know what I mean. That's how I viewed it. I kind of viewed them as companion pieces. I don't know why. I just kind of, I saw it. You see Shirley in the beginning of this movie at her lowest that she will be, and how she rebuilds it, if it's through love, if it's through manipulation, if it's through betrayal, and how all of those things that she does throughout the movie creates one of her finest works she's ever done, basically. And I think it's a masterpiece, and I think it's one of the best movies to come out this year. I've only seen like 3, but hey, what are you gonna do?
Well, so one thing I'll say real quick is I still haven't seen Shirley, so I can't fully speak to this. But you saying that it's a companion piece with Madeline's Madeline makes me think of it makes sense to me when you say about how Shirley is dealing with the sort of connections or the way people create art through love, manipulation, and what was the last one you said? I'm sorry.
Betrayal.
Yeah, just sort of like how I feel like Madeline's Madeline really deals with that as well. Sort of how that helps to create art and expression and like how you process things.
Yeah. And it's not based on a true story. It's actually based on a novel. And I think there are some moments where I was like, man, I really wish that Josephine Deckard could have like written some of this, because there are some moments, but it doesn't take away from the movie at all. I think it was just more of me being a Josephine Deckard fanboy. I was like, please, I love her how she writes certain dialogue scenes and how like natural it feels. But yeah, it shows. I don't want to spoil too much, but like there's a. It's also just a great commentary on the patriarchy and how it can stifle women's voices and how they express themselves through art. And I think it's a commentary that is needed and has been said, but I believe the way that Josephine Deckard portrays it is in a very beautiful, beautiful way, especially with like the final scene, which is heart-wrenching, but it's also just like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, let's do this. But yeah, that was Shirley. Did I watch anything else? I did not. That's it.
Nice. So with that, do we want to start talking about the Five Bloods?
Yes.
The Spike Lee joint?
Yes.
All right. So initial thoughts, how do we all feel about it?
Great.
I think it's almost a masterpiece.
Landon?
Terrible. Dang, I love it.
You
have problems with it.
I'm kind of with Brandon. I think it's almost a masterpiece as well. I'm constantly debating between 4.5 stars and 5 stars personally. I'm very much about it.
Yeah, I watched it the other day, and I've been thinking about it nonstop ever since. I think it's because I've been thinking about it the last few days, and because like Spike Lee's, I think the election. Okay, let me take it back for a second. The election of Donald Trump might have been one of the best things for Spike Lee's career. I think it reinvigorated his creativity and kind of gave him this new lease on life and kind of this new lease on filmmaking, where he's making all these films. Because pre-2016, a lot of his films, they lacked the kind of anger and kind of spirit and kind of like, I don't know, this like determination to tear everything down that like Do the Right Thing had, or Crooklyn had, or kind of like films like Summer of Sam had. But with Black Klansman and now with Five Bloods, you see that kind of spirit coming back. And it's energizing. It's so incredible. And like seeing Spike Lee back in form and seeing him making films like this where he's angry. Like he's angry with this film. He's so angry, and he has something to say, and he's saying it. And it's not subtle, it's not nuanced, but man, he's saying it. He's saying it. He's saying it.
Saying it with his chest.
Saying it with his chest, whole chest. And I love it. I'll talk about, you guys want to talk about it a little bit, because I kind of wanted to go and like talk about it a little bit, but you guys can go.
So one thing I'll say is going into the movie, I really did not know that much about it. Like, I didn't even know that it was about them 40 years after Vietnam. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be about like them in Vietnam, like during the war, right?
Yeah.
So when the movie starts and it's like them in the modern day in Vietnam, I was like, oh, okay. And so I'm following it for like the first hour and I'm into it. And then it makes the heel turn, right? And then it becomes, hey, this is what the movie's really about. And it gets super violent and it has a violent moment that is very disturbing and very upsetting. That I'll just say the moment, and I'll spoil it, I guess, when that character gets blown up by the mine. And it is a moment that like hit me in such a weird way where like I was expecting a mine to go off at some point, right? They've been building it up. They've been talking about it. There's been the tension there. It happens. And I was like, oh shit, like that character's gone. But then he's not, right? And you just have that like just grotesque body horror corpse that I don't have any experience with that, obviously, but I guarantee you Spike Lee took some inspiration from actual corpses and mangled bodies from being blown up with such close proximity. And it was I was just shocked at how little reaction there was to it happening, right? Like how quickly, I think it's Otis that goes over to like comfort him.
Yeah.
Just goes over there with him for his last moments, and then they're on to the next thing because they can't wait, right? Like the next thing that happens, they cannot wait for it to resolve itself. Like it's literally someone else about to be blown up by a mine.
It doesn't leave the audience any time to really process it.
Exactly.
That's the brilliance of it, I think, because like it kind of puts you in the shoes of somebody that was there during Vietnam, or kind of having this not therapeutic, but this kind of reliving the horrors of their past kind of thing. And it puts you in their shoes, and it's just like it's rough. Like you said, Sam, it takes a heel turn, and it doesn't let you sit back and relax ever.
It also kind of picks up from, it feels a lot like the way it's just it kind of does that and moves on. It's kind of like the opening credits are what kind of really, it's like the first impact you have with the movie, because I think the part that has stuck in my mind since I watched it is I've seen the photo of I think it's a Viet Cong officer shooting the soldier in the head, like point blank. Mm-hmm. I didn't know there was a video, and I didn't want to know there was a video. But yeah, that's kind of been burned into my brain now, and probably will be for a while.
What do you think of Spike Lee? Because this is something that Spike Lee's gotten in trouble with the Black Klansman, and now he's getting in trouble with it in the Five Bloods, is his use of actual like archive violence and deaths that have occurred.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
I don't like seeing it, but I don't have with Black Klansman, I know I've said this before, I had never seen like the actual footage of the Charlottesville incidents, the car going into the crowd and all that, but I think it's important that I did. That's my take on it.
I think that I think I have less of a problem with it here than I did with Black Klansman. Because
That's how I feel as well.
Because I think that more than anything, what he was meant for in this film, because during when the war was happening, the American public was shielded from a lot of the realities of what the government was doing, a lot of the atrocities it was committing in Vietnam. And I think that here he's trying to reinforce the fact that this is a reality for a lot of the men and a lot of the Black men who were traumatized there. And this is what they were seeing on a daily basis. So you're seeing like a glimpse of what they were seeing every day. And it's really just like, it's for the same reason they use the same actors in like the flashback sequences. They're trying to immerse you into reality. And like, that's kind of how I felt about it. I had less of a problem. I thought it was very useful here. I thought they used it well.
Yeah.
Real quick, I will say I really love them using the actors. They didn't de-age. I really love that.
Yeah.
And I'll say also for like, in terms of that opening sequence, which I think might be one of Spike Lee's greatest openings, maybe one of his best sequences, where it like, it's almost like a perfect thesis statement for the movie, where it is directly like visually showing you this concept of kind of what you're talking about, Brandon, like this trauma experienced by soldiers in Vietnam on a daily basis, but then also that's the same horrible things that the Vietnamese were experiencing, right? That like soldiers on all sides were experiencing that. And
sorry.
Well, just like, I think that's such a, personally, I've never seen that perspective. I think in America, we don't have a lot of Vietnam films that are sympathetic towards the Vietnamese. I think we get a lot of ones that they're sympathetic towards the soldiers, which is fair, like that's true. But we weren't the only ones in that conflict. We
want to feel like we won, which we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this film is like I think it's Spike Lee's his most rich and his most layered film. And I think that the larger thesis statement of the film is the thing that really hits me the most, which is like America's continued war on Black people. Because I feel like the things here is that like Spike, the like kind of through line throughout all this film is that slavery really, even though it ended, I guess, it never really ended. And America's continually found ways to promise things to Black people, but at the end really put them in chains and make them fight wars for them and make them kill for them and make them do all these things for them. And like, it's also a way of them kind of killing all these promising Black men, because like with Storm Norman, I feel like Chadwick Boseman's character Norman, he represents an entire generation of Black men whose futures were taken away from them, and like by sending them to Vietnam and sending them to die. And I just feel like that also that theme of like how, because like, you talked about it a little bit, Sam, how we kind of see the Vietnamese perspective of it, of how all the Five Bloods, they went to Vietnam fighting a war for the white men, and now the Vietnamese are fighting for the white men for that. Well, that's kind of a spoiler, but like they end up fighting the battle of a white man for a white man, and it's so poignant because it's that thing with the hat too, and showing how power really shifts, but it never really shifts.
The dude literally looks like Trump. Like the white guy literally just looks like Trump. Like,
yeah.
I gotta be honest, I don't love that.
That he was dressed like Trump, or the hat?
That whole scene. I don't love it because I feel like it's very corny.
I think it is, but that's also like Spike Lee's a corny dude. Like, if we're gonna be honest, like I don't know, it's kind of like, I don't know, it makes me feel like someone going into a Gaspar Noé film, and I'm saying that's someone who's done this, and being like, man, that was really disturbing. I didn't like that. It's like, yeah, that's what you're getting. Like that's his thing.
Plus, it felt like a level out of Uncharted.
But
the first Uncharted, yeah.
Yeah.
This is gonna get into a bit of a tangent, and I've talked about this with Landon, but I have this whole theory about the use of What's Going On in the film, the album What's Going On, where I feel like the movie in a way is using Marvin Gaye and that album as like a moral compass in a sense, and is like almost, the film is almost like reevaluating that album and trying to like recontextualize its place in modern America, where we're like, I keep thinking about how they arranged the album in the movie, because every Marvin Gaye song used in the movie, except for one, is from What's Going On. And What's Going On is a concept album meant to be played song after song after song. And the movie starts with the last song on the album. And so I feel like that's like the end of an era, right? That's like the end of that period. And then they bring the album back once they actually are walking through the jungle for the first time. And they're asking, and the song is, what's happening, brother? And they're asking, they keep repeating what's happening, which is like, you know, we've been introduced to these characters, but we don't really know who they are. You know, we still don't really know what's going up beneath the surface, like what's happening. And then they use Holy, Holy when they're having that prayer. And the way they do it, I think, is so smart, where it's like slowly fades in from the background. Anytime they use the album after that. The scene that really gets me is when they use Flying High in a Friendly Sky, when Paul is like having that sort of breakdown moment before he goes off on his own. And it's like, you know, Flying High is a song about drug abuse and about like sort of the high that you get from drugs and how it makes you escape from reality. And I think that's kind of what Paul's going through. He's like experiencing this high of adrenaline and survival instincts and returning to this environment, returning to this traumatic area and feeling like an emotional high, I guess. And what always stuck with me is like the song stops when he says that his son is a traitor, that he betrayed him. Because where it stops is where it would have transitioned into the song Save the Children, which is just like, whoa. And then, of course, the a cappella version of What's Going On, just fucking haunting. Just one of the best sequences in that movie. It's just so good. And like, and then my favorite use of it in the movie is when, again, getting the spoilers, is when Paul is digging his own grave and he's singing God is Love. Because to me, I feel like whenever the music is used, it's in Paul's head. Like that's how he's thinking. And I feel like for him, this might be a weird way of putting this. I think to him, Norman is like a god, right? Norman is like, he believes Norman's teaching so much. That's like a religion to him. It's this very strong faith belief. And so Norman is like a god to him, and that's why it means so much when he like forgives him and is there for him at that final scene. But I think Marvin Gaye is almost like a prophet of that, of those teachings, and that's sort of like his moral compass, because the music is so ingrained in him just because it was so big at that time. And I think the music is meant to be like how he's processing these things and like how he's working through all of this, and how like that's his clinging to sanity is with this music. And that's why it keeps fading more and more until he finally gets that forgiveness. He finally has his moment of clarity and is singing God is love. God, you know, don't talk about my father. God is my friend. Like that whole thing. And then, right. And, you know, this whole album is just this plea and this begging for peace and for harmony, and how, you know, no matter what, no one can get it, right? There's no peace and no harmony if we're not listening to each other, if we're not finding the real roots of the problem. And that's why the album is still relevant today. That's why so many lines still hit and still feel relevant, you know?
Yeah.
I went a whole fucking tangent, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you have to also kind of have to look at like the album contextually and like when it was made, because it was made during like civil rights period and everything, and like in the years leading up to, because Vietnam was a really, really long war, and it was made in the midst of that war, and kind of playing the whole album in that order, especially kind of playing it with the context of everything going on, it really means a lot, because these people are still fighting to stay alive. They're still fighting for their lives in a part of the world where they're not welcome, just like in America where they're not welcome, because people like Paul's character, he's a Trump supporter, and like Trump speaks to a demographic of like older black men, especially, who feel like they're owed something. They feel like they're promised something by America. And when he goes there, when he's playing through all the songs in his head, he's basically playing through his life, and he's getting kind of like, and he has that kind of come to Jesus moment at the end. But the really sad thing is, it took him so long to go through that. And when it finally happens at the end, when he's singing, I forgot the song, but when he's singing it while in his grave,
God is love.
Yeah. It's really, really tragic. It's so tragic.
That whole sequence, that and then before when he's talking to Chadwick Boseman, it's just, yeah.
And that kind of like concept, Sam, of like being promised something, and like that's really why they go there, because they feel like they're owed this kind of gold, this money. They feel like they're owed it. It's theirs, because they go there to find. They go there to find the gold in Norman's bones, but like in the process of it, kind of spoilers again, they all lose their lives searching for something that they feel like they're owed, and it's like this cycle of death and destruction, and that peace, they're never going to find it. And I don't know, that idea is just so tragic to me.
That was my main takeaway from the movie, and why I think it's like near perfect is because of its message about how greed, and especially capitalism, kind of can turn like communities that have been like downtrodden for years against each other. And this whole idea of like capitalism and greed can corrupt these communities. And like my main thing that like while I was watching the movie, I was getting so kind of angry at how these characters were kind of forgetting about the main reason they were there was to honor Norman, and they reached a point where they were just like, we have to get this gold out of here. That was like their main goal after a certain point. And then like throughout the movie, you see how people start to turn on each other, and they feel they all have their own idea of where this money should go and what should happen to this money and where it belongs. And you have Otis, who's like, we should follow what Norman preached, and we should bring it back to the Black community and give it to the people that are owed it. And then you have Paul's character and I forget the other guy's name, the bigger guy. What was his name? You know?
Which guy is it? Are you talking about the guy that gets blown up?
No, the bigger guy that jumps on the grenade.
David?
Yeah,
David.
No, that's not the Matrix. It's Melvin. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Melvin.
Melvin and Paul are like, well, aren't we owed the money as well? Isn't it what we are owed? And like,
the irony of it is that it's none of their money. Technically, it's the Vietnamese people.
Yeah, and that's where like I kind of found like that whole idea of the movie is why I just adored it so much, is because it's this whole idea of how the money corrupts people, and how people that are especially downtrodden, and they are doing these things for a government that actually does not respect them. And they're doing these horrific things for somebody that will just wipe them away and never think about them again. And then as soon as they have this glimpse of money, they will so quickly turn on each other almost. And it was kind of heartbreaking in that tale, and then how they come back together and they realize at the end. It was kind of emotionally impactful for me personally. I might be totally misreading the movie, but that's my main takeaway from it. But I also see the anger that Spike Lee was trying to portray as well. But yeah. And now.
Well, and one last point I want to make, unless someone has another point after me, is this might just be my own ignorance in terms of Black filmmakers, but I don't know if there are a lot of Black filmmakers that are making epic films on this scale. I don't think that comes from a lack of creativity. I think it comes from a lack of
opportunity.
Exactly. And I think it's so fascinating that so far Spike Lee has really been the only one with Malcolm X and now The Five Bloods. And it just shows how incredible and intelligent and deep and fascinating these movies can be on these grand epic scales when people of color, when just any, you know, marginalized group is given that opportunity. I think this is sort of the ultimate example of that. And it's just really fascinating to me.
I agree with you on that one, Sam. Like,
Yeah.
Spike's a filmmaker with a lot of history and a lot of like, and he's obviously so talented, and kind of getting to see him, like, I don't know, kind of use like expand, like, because he always has told really big stories, but kind of like match those huge like stories with a lot of scope with these like larger than life like filmmaking and like really big like epic like scale filmmaking. It's really I love it. I think it's really good. But yeah, I kind of wanted to actually mention really quick. Who's gonna say something?
No, you can go.
I think it's great. That's all I love.
I just want to kind of mention too, because I mentioned like there's like a link between I kind of found between Sorry to Bother You and like this film, and I kind of tied into how because Spike Lee, because there's like, he got a lot of he's getting really recently he's getting a lot of flack for like Black Klansmen. People are saying it's propaganda, and like I can definitely like see that angle, and I kind of agree with that. And there's been a lot of kind of controversy and people like criticizing him about making this film about the military. But I think it's very anti-military. Like, there's really no gray area in that thing. I think it's very anti like American military and American.
But I don't get this whole argument of he's getting flack because it's propaganda. Like, is it propaganda that's pro-war? Is that what they think?
Oh no, it was before like the film had like come out. I don't know if it's still going on or whatever, but like people were like thinking that it was going to be, because they say Black Klansman was propaganda, which I can like see that. But like
doesn't it reach a point where white America and just America in general has had this propaganda that has instigated people for years against other races and just hate towards minorities for years? Isn't it right for like minority filmmakers to make their own form of propaganda? And I don't think Spike Lee is propaganda. I think he's telling the truth most of the time.
Well, no, it's just that like, wait, are you talking about Black Klansman now, or are you talking about like?
I'm talking about the Five Bloods and Spike Lee.
No, like that was before you even saw the movie. Like now I feel like it's not really a conversation, but like I agree with you like on that.
But was his old movies propaganda?
It's really Black Klansman.
Was Black Klansman propaganda? Propaganda is what he.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of like thinking about how it kind of connects to that and it being very anti-military, because I was kind of comparing in like Sorry to Bother You, the whole worry-free situation where it's like you can kind of sign away your life and get like free food, free board, and whatever, and free meals, and that's kind of works in the same way because of gentrification and like property value going up and it's getting harder to buy places, you're kind of forced in this situation. And it's kind of like how the military has operated for like the last 150 years. They've like, specifically appealing to like young Black men who can't afford to live in these who can't afford to live like in a place that doesn't want them, who like is actually trying to force them out of their communities. And the military appeals to them because it's saying, hey, you want to like get $35,000 for college, you want to get like free food, free board, do whatever you want, like come join the military, fight for us for 3 years. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but that's their way of killing these Black men. That's their way of getting rid of Black men. And like through like this, and I haven't really thought about it this way before, but like the military is, especially at that point, was so fucked up. Like they're saying, okay, you have to go to this area in Vietnam, but you can't leave, like no matter what. You can't do anything. You have to do whatever we say for like this specific amount of time. And if you die,
and we're gonna put you on the front line as well. Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not even people who are on the front lines, because Donald Trump, he's the one who's always like, oh, the military, we need to like, the military is our great fighting force. He dodged the draft. He dodged up on the draft. He dodged Vietnam. So like, it's that thing where it's just like so crazy to me, because it's slavery. Like I mentioned earlier, but like slavery is never the military, especially for Black men, it's slavery. And like, I just can't believe America's getting away with it, because we've committed atrocities in so many countries for so many years, and we're still doing it. And like it's just crazy how. And you can see that anger Spike Lee has with it too. It's like we've still got.
There's been no war since World War II that's been just.
That's been necessary. Like no.
Yeah.
And like we got in to Vietnam because the French, they were like, okay, fuck it, we don't want to be here anymore. It's fine. You guys do whatever you want. And America was like, oh shit, we can kind of because French like before like then French was like I think majority like it was still in kind of like its colonial period, right, where it was like capturing like as much property and as much land as possible. So America thought they could take France's place in Vietnam and buy basically the entire country out. That's literally why they got so they could have like a whole new kind of country. And like it's just so fucked up.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Can we talk about Jonathan Majors real quick?
Ooh, boy.
He's so good. He is so good.
So the moment there's a moment in the film. This is a very superficial thing. And I was trying to Landon about it, and I was trying to remember what it was. And I was rewatching scenes, and I remembered what it was. It's a shot near the end during the emotional finale, like during the final monologue. And it's a shot where it's like showing them by a waterfall, like playing around in Vietnam. Jonathan Majors is shirtless. That boy is ripped. Like you watch Last Black Man, and he's like got these coats on, right? He's very shy, and you know, you're like, oh, you know, he's a cute boy. All right, like I'm with it. And then you watch this, and he's just like buff, and I'm like, whoa, he's gonna break my fucking neck, like Jesus.
Yeah, and like, have you seen White Boy Rick?
Yes, I have. Okay, who is he in that movie? I forget. Who is he?
He plays like one of the drug dealers.
Okay, my problem is that White Boy Rick is really forgettable. So
yeah,
it's kind of a nothing movie.
Yeah,
but yeah, like this is something that sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good. I just want to ask you like about like something about like the like team of like mine like the white people in the film. I want to ask you guys what you thought of them.
About who?
The white people, like the mine.
I didn't. I was talking to Sam about this. I didn't love the kind of forced relationship between Jonathan Majors' character and Heidi. Is that what her name is? Heidi.
Some of the.
Yeah, I did not like. I think she's an interesting character, but I didn't understand the need for them to kind of like shoehorn this relationship into it. I think that she could have been a character that worked within the movie without them having these weird kind of forced scenes, like especially at the end where it's like them like kind of like he just got shot in the leg and they're like, oh, we're having a bonding moment here. I'm just like, I don't know, it just seemed forced to me. But I think her character is interesting. I didn't need the forced relationship personally. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I agree.
I'm with you.
I can kind of see it. I didn't mind it, but I didn't hate it. Or I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. Yeah. It's probably the most forgettable part, or one of the more forgettable parts of the movie for me.
But yeah, Jonathan Majors, me and Sam were talking about this, is how, because like the only thing I've seen him in before this was Last Black Man, and then I forgot that he was in Hostiles, and he's great in Hostiles. He's not in it for long, but he's great in that movie. But it's just so interesting how he can go from this very like sheltered, quirky character that he is in Last Black Man to like this super confident guy that he is in The Five Bloods. It just shows the range that he has, and he's gonna be something. He's gonna be something big, and God, I'm ready for it.
He's also like
love
County. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna be that, but he's also like so funny too, but not saying anything. Like the scene where he's in front of like the four of them, and he has the orange juice in his hand. And he's like he told his dad he's just sitting there.
Yeah. No, I was talking to Sam about this scene as well. I just love how that scene parallels the scene that they show later in the movie, and just how Spike Lee shows power structure.
Yeah.
Because within this scene, you have this kind of downward angle to Jonathan Majors' character, and then when it cuts to the Five Bloods that are talking to him, you have this upward angle showing that he looks up to them. And then later on, when you have the flashback scene, that exact same image is mirrored basically, with Norman having the upward angle and then the Five Bloods having this kind of downward angle showing that they look up to Norman as a person. And I love that little like callback that Spike Lee did. But yeah, he's also, when he finds the gold and he does like that little dance, it's so good. He's so good. He's so good. And then also Delroy, is that his name?
Delroy Lindo for Best Actor.
Yeah, Delroy Lindo, yeah.
Fantastic. Also Otis. I think we need to realize that Otis did a great job, except for that final scene. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay, you agree with me. Okay, good.
It's like, it's so, like, I don't know what they were doing in that scene. I don't know if it was like the last day and they were like, we just want to get it over with. So like, we don't have to shoot again. Like, it was like, I was like, it took me out.
It was so awkward, wasn't it?
Wait, are we talking about him meeting his daughter?
Yeah, it was so awkward. I think it would have worked if they had some kind of score underneath it.
There is a
or
score.
Something.
There is
a score underneath it? Well, then it's just an awkward fucking scene. Is there actually a score?
There is. No, okay, Landon, literally after we talked, I went through the scenes that have Marvin Gaye in it, like his music, right? So Marvin, they do the acapella "What's Going On" again after that hug. During the hug, they have music playing underneath it, and then it cuts to the shot of like them on the dolly coming towards the camera.
I like that part.
Yeah,
but like, I don't know. It's just like him walking up to the door, and the way that he grabs the doorknob and he like slowly turns it. It felt like a scene out of a soap opera. You know what I mean?
Probably porn acting.
Yeah, no, it really did. It was so like awkward.
Meet my stepdaughter.
Oh my God.
She's like, "Oh, I missed you so much." And
I
it's
missed
just like,
you, Daddy.
it was like you never met this man.
It didn't bother me that much, but I think that's valid. I think it's kind of it almost negates how strong the final moments are.
Yeah.
Like getting that last Martin Luther King speech and then just the fucking text coming up.
The final text also, man, hits. It's good.
Yeah.
It's really fucking good.
Wait, what was the final text again?
It was, I just remember it ended with the saying that, like, it ended with like him, a clip from him like a year before he died.
It's a year to the day.
Yeah.
So he makes that speech exactly 1 year later. He's assassinated.
That's
the part that fucked me up.
Yeah.
And then
the speech was about like the hope for Black people in America and the hope to like assimilate and the hope to be a part of a society that wants them one day. And then and it's just like, man, yeah, he made this speech that was very optimistic, but guess what? He fucking killed him a year later. And it's like, ooh, man.
So they're still doing that today.
And like
just remember that. Yep. Just remember how protesters that have been seen in videos during Ferguson have just been disappearing in like handfuls over the last couple of years.
One of the leaders of the protest, like, he was shot in his car and they ruled it a suicide, but like there were like 2 gunshots from both windows, and it was
it's actually ridiculous. It is like we were saying, like at the beginning of this quote unquote review, is this movie is so crazy that this movie had to have been shot like a year ago. You would have to think.
Yeah.
And like how important it is to what is happening right now. And it's like this movie is so extremely important to everything that is happening right now. And I don't know, I think it's fantastic. I don't know, it's incredible. Except there are some like really cheesy ass transitions in the very beginning of the movie. Like when they first start flashing back to Vietnam, there's one where like it's like after the firecracker goes off and then a motorcycle like drives by and that acts as the transition into Vietnam.
I like
flashback.
that.
You like that? It reminded me of like the Saw transitions.
I didn't mind
You know,
it.
like that.
I didn't mind it.
Hey man, they're not as good as the transitions in Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Okay,
Very true.
they have the transition where it's like her walking through Paris and they pan up to the sky and then it transitions to the same sky that Amanda Seyfried's in. The Five Bloods can't even dream of doing that. Okay.
Oh no, man! It was just so cheesy to me. I'm sorry. I feel like it would have been just as impactful if it was just a hard cut.
No, I think you're right. It would have been better if it was a hard cut, but it didn't bother me personally. But I see your points.
Yeah, but yeah, overall great.
Easily one of the best movies of this year. Not a lot of competition, but I think even if it had it, it would have been. It'll be up there.
My favorite feature movie. I think The Last Dance and The Mariner's Doc still rank above it, but for feature movies, it's definitely pretty far and away the top.
I don't know. For me, Trolls World Tour kind of still has a little leg above it. I'm not sure.
What is better, Black Klansman? Because you know what my thoughts are on Black Klansman.
Yeah.
Is it Black Klansman or the Five Bloods?
Five Bloods.
Okay, good.
I'd agree with that.
Really enjoys Black Klansman. The Five Bloods is better.
Yeah.
By a long shot.
Black Klansman has like a lot of great moments, but like Five Bloods
It has some of Spike Lee's best moments, I think.
The scene where him and Clarice are dancing, it's like the two lights turn back now. The Cornelius brothers are playing in the background, they're dancing. And that's like a classic Spike Lee. That's really
also when he goes to the Black Panther rally,
cool.
and it's like just the faces, with like the black. Oh my God, that scene is like magnificent. I remember watching that in theaters, being like, "This is going to be a masterpiece." And then I watched the rest of the movie, and I was like, "It was just okay."
Okay, I think it's really good. I think it's really good.
And then I watched the rest of it.
It's funny. I don't know. This movie has funny moments, but it's like I feel like this movie takes itself more seriously.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Yeah. I feel like the Black Klansman does not take itself that seriously until like
that's by design, though. Honestly, it's by design.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you guys want to, before we move on to The Last of Us, do you guys want?
No, Atlanta.
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
We'll talk about Atlanta quickly, or we can just talk about it next episode. What do you want to do?
Can we do it next episode?
Next episode?
I'm good with it.
I don't know if anybody else feels about it, but
yeah,
I'm good either way.
Yeah, I gotta go to work, like early tomorrow, so I gotta sleep.
I thought you said you had to go to work now, and I was like, it's 11
for work now.
At 10:27, I gotta go to work. No,
I gotta be there.
Brandon's trying to getting out of talking about The Last of Us because he didn't actually play it. He was like, "Oh, guys, sorry, I have to go to work."
Oh man, I left my my heater on. Hold on, I'll be back. Shut off the feed.
My garage, my meter's like running off, man. Like it's crazy. But yeah. But yeah. So, do y'all have anything else you want to say? So we're talking about Atlanta next week, right?
Yeah,
Atlanta.
Okay. Atlanta's next week.
All right. So, you guys want to have anything else to say about Five Bloods before we move on to Last of Us?
Great.
Masterpiece. The Spike Lee's top. I've only seen at this point, I think 4 of his movies. It's near the top.
It's his. I think it's the second best film of the century. Behind Bamboozled.
Is Bamboozled good? It's in Criterion. I want to watch it, but
really, really good.
Okay.
Is it on the channel yet?
No, which is
because it's like the Criterion release is like I think it's already come out. I think the hard copies are. So I might buy if there is a sale because I know Adam we were talking about earlier too. If there is a sale, huh?
There should be a summer sale. The summer sale should be starting like this week.
Because Barnes & Noble's open right now.
Or you can do it online, honestly, order digitally.
But yeah, so anything anyone wants to say before we move on?
Old Boy was better. That's it.
All right. But yeah, So that was Five Bloods. Watched it on Netflix. Really, really great film. I hope this filmmaking. But yeah, so now we're gonna move on to Landon's pick from how many weeks ago was it? Like 3 weeks?
3 or 4.
About a month.
So yeah, Landon's pick from a month ago,
Years.
which Landon will talk about now. But yeah, it is Landon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Landon's Reading Corner. Today, first, before I introduce The Last of Us, I want to talk about Naughty Dog as a studio, because I do not agree with a lot of the actions, how they treat their workers. Just want to put that out there right now. I know a lot of you agree with me. Naughty Dog needs to treat their workers better. Video game artists, they need to unionize, and they just need to unionize, and the studios need to let them, because the way that Naughty Dog and many studios have been treating their employees is horrific. But past that note, I will now introduce The Last of Us. Video games, and I've always played video games for like such a long time. And one of the first games I ever played and beat was Kingdom Hearts. And that is a game that very much represents my childhood. And then every game I played after that, it was just me having fun, never really like focusing on the story and what is actually occurring. But then flashback to 2013, I bought The Last of Us, and it is the first time that a narrative in a video game has ever moved me to my core. It is the first game that I realized that narratives in video games can exceed narratives in films and other mediums, just in general. And the reason behind that is because of the directors, writers, and the whole team at Naughty Dog that created such a beautiful world, a beautiful script, and everything. A game about morals and the morality that gets corrupted with love. I'm going to bring that out there because, like Neil Druckmann said, this very much is a game about love. And me replaying it, I have realized that he is right when he says this, because I believe what unfolds within this game is tackling how one's morals can be corrupted when you are faced with this idea of loving someone and the places you'll go when you love someone and what you'll do for somebody when you love someone. And I believe that is what the heart and soul of this game is. And I will present the floor to you guys. What do you think about The Last of Us? Oh yeah, also it's about a guy transporting a girl across the country that has the cure for a virus.
Hey, timely.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I guess I can start. So because of my history with The Last of Us, I've never played it until this time. I watched a full playthrough of it. I watched someone play it when the game came out, so I've known the story. I've known what happens in it. I've been aware of it and know what happens. But playing it, actually sitting down and playing it this time, did give me a new perspective. Not only because it had been so long, but just actually controlling it and being in control of this character as things are going on really helped to put that in perspective for me. I feel like The Last of Us holds up really well as a narrative in terms of character development, voice acting, performances, world building, just everything about the presentation and the writing and the characters and everything is so good. I don't know if it holds up as well as a game, mainly because I think, and it's kind of unfair for me to say that, I think, where it is a game that was sort of the culmination of all of the best things about games in 2013, but I'm playing it on my PlayStation 4, which has created a new standard for these types of games, which The Last of Us 2 is set to sort of act on and Naughty Dog has themselves developed past. So sometimes it's a little frustrating as a game. I think the cracks and the seams are a little bit more visible than they were however many years ago at this point. I guess it's like, yeah, whatever. It's so many years at that point. But I think the story is still so good. I think the character development is still so good. I think it is just such an incredible... I'll just say I get really bothered when people say that it's just a zombie narrative, that it's just like every other zombie story or characters, or, you know, there's nothing interesting about it. And I think that's ignoring the entire, you know, by the mere fact that you're controlling these characters, that makes it different than a lot of post-apocalyptic narrative and fiction. But because these characters are so well written, and, you know, we haven't had this, I personally haven't seen too many stories tackle what you're talking about, Landon, tackling love and how it corrupts people, especially in a world that has lost morals and has lost hope and has lost, you know, a lot of light, I guess. And just seeing this relationship grow and mold and change. I just don't think there are a lot of narratives that tackle that, and so I just think it's kind of a flimsy argument, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great game, great story, great narrative.
Adam, what do you think?
Well, so I do not have a PS3 or a PS4. I'm just going to wait for the 5. So I watched the 10-hour walkthrough on YouTube. I had it sped up at times because I couldn't watch it for 10 hours. I skipped through some of like the person just going around collecting
Played it for
items.
13 hours.
I skipped around the person collecting items and stuff because I had other things to do. But I still probably spent a good 7 hours on it, and it took a few minutes, and then I really started getting engaged with it. Like, first off, with like kind of what we're doing now, the pandemic hitting and everything. But in this game, it's a lot worse. And then them getting through like the first, I think it's hour and a half or so, by the time everything it kind of settles down and he's just left transporting Ellie. But I got really, really engaged in it, and it never really let up until I was done. And I think the creature design is pretty great. I feel like A Quiet Place stole a lot from this movie, or from this game.
Quality.
Huh?
Except for the quality.
Okay.
I like A Quiet Place. It's not as good as this.
A Quiet Place is like, what if it's The Last of Us, but they're creatures instead of people. But yeah, I thought it was really excellent. I thought the landscapes are great. I thought the design of the world was really fantastic. I can see what Sam's saying, where there's parts that haven't aged well, but overall it's really, really great.
So Adam, I just want your opinion real quick. So you did not know anything about this game going in, right?
Other than that it's post-apocalyptic, and it's just the dude transporting the girl now.
So how did you feel about the opening scene?
Which is him coming into their house and she's asleep, right? Okay.
I'm talking about from when the apocalypse starts before it cuts to 20 years later.
Okay. I thought they did, because I think it's 15 minutes long or something like that. So I think they did because like you feel something when his daughter dies. Like they do such a good job building that up in the span of 15 minutes or less. That I think they did a really good, and creating that small environment where it's in their house and they're driving, they get to the highway, and then they have to run through that little town that's already being overrun. I think they did a really good job with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brandon, you go. Sorry.
All right, so let me tell you about my history with The Last of Us. Let's get to it.
He just spoils the entirety of Last of Us Part 2.
I'm like, all right, so here's the thing. Ellie, in part 2, she has zombie babies with a woman. And the clickers.
They're actually clitters.
The clitters? Oh my God.
Glitters.
So yeah, So first time I played Last of Us, the first Last of Us, I was at a sleepover in the summer of 2015, and I played it all in one night. And I remember being like, why? Because I had played Uncharted before then, and I knew it was the same studio. And like, I was like, initially I didn't like it because I was like, why is this game so fucking hard? Because throughout the entire game, you only have like 10 bullets the entire time max. You often have like 5 or 6 bullets, and you're like, fuck, I use all my bullets. I gotta throw a brick at this guy. Oh my God, I have to throw. Oh my God, I throw something at this guy. What can I throw? Oh my God. And like, I just remember I remember being really impressed though, and even now, cause like I played up to the middle of the game in here, like because Landon kindly lent me the game to play it. I did not finish it this time around, but I watched a walkthrough. I skimmed through a walkthrough, and I watched like the last half hour of the game, and I remember even to this day, I'm very staggered by the pacing of the game and how it's structured, and the summer, winter, fall, like kind of like structure of it is very, very impressive. And like,
It goes summer, winter, fall. So it goes from summer to winter, and then it does a flashback to fall.
anyways, so yeah, but I remember being particularly struck by the structure of it. And the real like meat and bones of the story is the relationship between Joel and Ellie, which like you spend the entire time with them, and the bond that's forged between them, and the way Joel kind of, because like from what, I'm not going to spoil anything about part 2, but you kind of see that relationship, and then you kind of see like how it's kind of progressed, and like how he kind of projects his daughter who dies in the first chapter of the game. You kind of see him kind of project her onto Ellie, and how he kind of like, and how his actions towards the end of the game kind of reflect how he feels about his daughter. And it's a really, 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 really like beautiful and kind of really like tragic conclusion to the game, which I can't wait to see how it plays out and how Ellie reacts to it, if she does react to it in the next one. But yeah, I think The Last of Us is a masterpiece in storytelling. In gameplay, I think that, because like something that Naughty Dog does in their games, which I'm not a big fan of, is like you can always tell when a combat scene is about to come. There's always like a set of boxes or like some like rocks that you have to hide behind and like go over to shoot, and that's annoying. It takes
Like,
away.
all right, well, we're just gonna walk into this open area, and you come up through the hallway, and there's like chest high walls and boxes, and they're like, oh no, they have guns, and you're like, yeah, I know, just let me, please.
Don't you love how whenever you try to walk upstairs in this game, there's always the same 4 desks blocking your way to get up to the top floor? It's always the same exact 4 desks. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
But yeah, now that we've given our brief overview, I kind of want to go into certain story elements. We've already talked about a little bit about the beginning and that opening moment, which is kind of sets the mindset of Joel and like what his, very briefly, it gives you everything you need to know about Joel. And I think the way that they establish that and the short amount of time they were able to establish that is brilliant. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention, like, from the time jump between like the opening scene of the game to like when we pick up, it's thick. It's 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a thickie. Like I didn't expect that because like throughout the game, like especially with him in conversation with Tommy, his brother, like they kind of allude to some like really messed up shit Joel did in those 20 years and why like they kind of like broke up and kind of split up, and like it just like it leaves so much mystery, and it's like there's a lot, and I could see them doing like a prologue or like a prequel to the game set in those 20 years where Joel's kind of just figuring shit out and really not even dealing with it, but just like kind of processing the death of Sarah. And like, I don't know, because it does a really good job of building the lore of the world and kind of like alluding to a lot of times where like stuff happened in the past and building a lot of anticipation, a lot of mystery around events in the past. That's something I really love about the game too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I also want to add something on that. Like, there's that a wonderful scene like after you leave Bill's and you're driving. This is one of my favorite moments in the game is when you're driving and that song's playing over the radio and Ellie's they see that guy and Ellie's like, oh, he's hurt, we should help him. And then Joel's like, no, he's not. And he just like hits the gas and just goes straight through him. And then like after like the music plays over that fight, it's really gory. It's really hard to fight that part because it like this game is brutal. Like there's been a lot of like leading up to Last of Us Part 2, there's been a lot of complaints about how brutal it is. But like if you think about this game is just as brutal. And but yeah, and then there's that moment after they clear through all those enemies. Ellie asked him, he was like, how did you know it was a trap? And he was like, well, I've been on both sides. And it like alludes to the fact that like Joel has done these horrific things that the hunters do throughout this game. And but yeah, also like to add on to world building, I don't know if Adam, you were able to experience this through the walkthrough, but I just love the little notes that are left throughout the game. They're like collectibles, quote unquote.
I read all of them. Yeah.
You read all of them?
Pretty close to all of them. Yeah.
Damn, Adam.
Because I like those kind of little details that games put in there.
Yeah. And there's just so many great ones. Like, I love the story of Ishmael.
Yes.
Where it's like right after this very like tense moment, and you land on this like shore after you jump off a bridge, and you see this boat. You go into this boat, and you pick up a note, and it's just like it's this guy saying like, "Hey, I've been out at sea for so long. It's time for me to come back," and it's signed Ishmael. And then as you go on, you find this little cavernous thing, and you realize that Ishmael like made this whole civilization in these sewers. And throughout this level that you go through and every note that you pick up, you see the rise of this like community that Ishmael forged and then the fall of it and how quickly it fell. Yeah. And there's this like horrific and it's like it's no one's fault. It was just a tragedy of errors is what it comes down to. And there's this really like and it's just the level design as well, because you enter this room and you see this room that's filled with all of these like children's toys, and then you pick up a note and you read the note and it's like I'm stuck in this room basically with the children. I only have a couple bullets left. Should I kill the children basically to spare them the horrors that are going to occur? And it's just like little moments like that. Like there's this whole story within this one level. And there's so many stories throughout the game within these notes that are just, they're so thorough and they're so well crafted. And it's fantastic. And it's just, I don't know. It's one of my favorite aspects of the game when it comes down.
And you can see, I think they pan to it a little bit where you can see the bodies of the kids and the guy that was with them like under a blanket or something. Yeah
that moment really hits me. And there's one about a girl looking for her dog, like as soon as the outbreak happened. And that one is really heart-wrenching as well, because it's such a small story, but then like it's this little girl that's like, I have to go find my dog. And you know that it just did not end well for her. You know that she went out and she searched for her dog and the world ate her up, basically. But besides that, the core game, I love how, I feel like Naughty Dog does this in a lot of their story-driven games, is how rich the side characters are. They're never just one-note side characters. Like even in the Uncharted series, they're always so interesting. And like our first interaction with like, I guess the side character is Tess, and she's incredible. her whole entire motive is beautiful, and then like how she goes out is incredible as well. But my main question for you guys is, what are your thoughts on Henry and Sam? One of my favorite side characters in the game, and one of the only lights of humanity that you see throughout the game, and how quickly that light of humanity can be snuffed out. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on them. The floor is yours.
Well, so I'll say, sorry, I always feel like I'm the one that starts these, but I will say, like, I think you're totally right about that, Landon. I think there's some of the, up to that point, like, so the way I think about it is, like, you have Tess as the side character, then she's gone. Then you're by yourself for a long time. Then you have Bill, who is kind of unhinged. He's been alone for so long and created a fort city. Like he's just so distant from everything else. And then you're fighting all of these hunters that they got to eat too. Like they have their own motivations, but they're still so distant from you. That it's Henry and Sam, right?
Mm-hmm. Henry and Sam.
They just seem like they're so different. They stand out so much. And I feel like, in the grand scheme of the game, they're such a small part of it. Like if I had to guess, they're probably in the game less than Tess is. But I think one of the moments that always sticks with me is when after Joel falls in the river and he washes back up on the beach, before you find Ishmael's ship, Joel, I'm pretty sure it's Joel that points the gun, right? Is it Joel or is it Henry?
Yeah, Joel points the gun and he's like, "You left us to die."
Mm-hmm. And Henry is just so like calm about it,
Yeah.
He's clearly
like, "You would have done the same thing to us."
Yep. He's clearly like kind of maybe not in the same situation as Joel, but like they're both people that have been through this, like they're both people that are trying to raise and protect people that don't know what life was like before all of this, which I think is one of the more interesting aspects of the game is, Ellie and Sam, they don't know what life was like before all of this. All they've ever known is this apocalypse, and I think it's almost like Henry
Left Behind really, really like, we'll talk about Left Behind for a brief period later, but Left Behind really shows how little they know about life.
But I'll just say it almost like this is something that like I think is obvious, but it's just now like hitting me, just really thinking about it as I'm saying it, is like how Henry and Sam are kind of like, if like that's what would happen if Joel and Ellie were in a different like universe, or they like, their paths went a different direction, of just how easily any relationship, no matter how deep and emotional and complex it is, how I just know no matter how rich a life is, they can just be gone.
Yeah.
They go in an instant, and like in another life that might have been Joel and Ellie, and maybe Sam and maybe Henry and Sam are the ones that would survive and find another way to live. Mm-hmm. It's just fascinating, It's such a great detail. It just adds so much.
Yeah. Just to like echo what Sam said a little bit, it's kind of like those two were kind of like the representation of like some of the best of like society, or some of the best of like, I don't know, humanity, or like a representation of like what life was. Because you could see them like walking. They'd be walking in a neighborhood, or like you'd see them at the store, and like they're just like best friends or brothers, and like it's almost like the light of a better life, a light of what was and what could be, and like a representation of that in this world, in the world of like The Last of Us, lives that are that full of promise, and like lives are that pure and are that like good can just go in a second. And it's really, and it's like, it's the point of The Last of Us where you're like, okay, this is how this game's going to play out. Like, there is no good ending for anybody. Like, nobody, no matter how good you are, there's nothing, like, there's no hope, really.
And since we're talking about that, kind of moment in the game. I think that in the entire kind of finale climax of their journey with Henry and Sam is so well done. It's depressing, but it's so well done. Where you know that Sam is the younger brother, right?
Yes.
Sam is gonna be turned by the morning when you see that he looks at the bite on his arm or leg or whatever the night before. But like the way they do it, like she goes in, she's here, and he's here, and he's just like twitching. It's so well done. And then that final moment when Henry decides to kill himself is really, really good. Like the motion capture and voice acting is so good.
Like that scene is just so impactful because just the way that he says, "Don't kill my fucking brother," and like the crack in his voice and just everything about his performance, and then just like Joel says, I think he says like "fuck it," and he like goes to grab the gun, and as soon as he puts his hand on the gun, you just hear the gunshot, and it's those moments. It's just so good. It's just so good. It's one of my favorite. They're two of my favorite characters in The Last of Us, and like you said, Sam, they're not in it for that long, but they leave an impact. And like I love this is like an optional thing. Like after that scene, it cuts to that's the first time we get a transition. We get a transition to fall, and like after you like get the dam up and running, basically, or after you like find a way to get across and everything. If you go to the left, you find this little grave, and Ellie's like, I didn't leave this this little toy because Sam wanted this little robot toy. I never gave him the toy, or I never left it at his grave. And then Joel, being like grumpy Joel, he's like, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. But if you walk further up and then you walk back, you see that Ellie puts down that toy on that grave. And it's just, there's so many like small moments within the gameplay where like you see the humanity within Ellie and you see how that humanity starts to trickle over into Joel. And it's just like a great ending to Sam and Henry's story, I feel, the way that Ellie places that toy on this grave that she doesn't even know, and just to remember Sam and who he was. And but yeah, I want to talk about now because we'll kind of speed it up because I know it's getting late. There's a couple emotional beats that I want to talk about. I want to talk about after you get to Tommy's and you talk to Tommy about handing over Ellie because he's getting too emotionally attached to her. And Ellie rides away on a horse, and then you meet her in this house and they have that argument about Sarah and Joel's past life. And this is where I think the best you see Troy and what's her name that plays Ellie, the voice actor.
Tara Strong, or not Tara Strong? Tara Strong?
No, it's not Tara Strong.
Wait, who? Ashley Johnson, right? Or Ashley?
Yeah, Ashley Johnson. That's correct. You can.
Oh yeah.
Like their voice work in this scene is just so powerful. Like just Ellie, like pushing Joel and being like, "You're the only one that's ever fucking cared about me," and then that whole argument is ended with Joel saying like, "And you're right, you'll never be my daughter, and I'll never be your dad." It's just such a great moment of like these like ideas that have been bubbling up throughout the game, and then them finally being able to voice how they actually feel. And then you have the last half of the game to mend this kind of broken bond that they've forged. And this leads to the ending, which we'll talk about, which is the choice that Joel makes. And I want to know what Adam thinks about this, because Adam has no experience with this game. And I want to know how you feel about Joel's choice at the end of the game.
Joel's choice to take Ellie with him?
Yeah.
I agree with it. Probably because I mean she was. I don't
Wow.
know. Like they've proved that they can survive a lot throughout the game, and I just think that it's the understandable choice given the time they've spent together. Like I get it. Like I can see both sides of this, but like I think by the end of the game, I was rooting for them to stay together rather than for like I don't know. Like you guys, like Sam, your expression, Brandon, I can't tell. Sam and Landon, you guys seem to feel the other way.
I'm mostly exaggerating. Yeah. I didn't mean to steer you from not discussing your point. I genuinely am curious about like your perspective on it again, because you've done the experience.
Well, it's probably also because I haven't played the game. Like I haven't been like completely involved, but I don't know. Like I feel like Joel's evolution as a character kind of led to that. Like I could see that coming.
Do you think Joel is a bad guy?
No, no, not after that. I still don't. No,
You don't? Okay.
So
I
think he's
so you
capable.
don't okay, but Adam, you think Joel's a good person after he fucking brutally murders these two random henchmen for like no reason other than pure anger and hatred?
Wait, which two were you? Oh, which?
the nurses and the doctor.
Well, there's that,
Oh.
but there's also the cannibals. Even though
Yeah.
they may not be cannibals, but
Well,
Joel does, wait, what? The
What?
cannibal? Ellie kills him.
Yeah.
no.
You're talking about when he stabs him in the knee?
Yeah, dude.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Wait, the
Like,
what?
no, I don't think Joel's a good person, but I also don't think he's an overtly bad person either. I think that it's like the state of everything that they're living in has it turned anyone into kind of a maniac on some levels.
I believe the choice that Joel made is a selfish choice.
Oh, not I totally agree, but it's
Yeah.
also rooting for. I don't know. I guess they needed a sequel too, so.
I guess.
I don't know about that one. But what do you? I want to know what your thought on the final like minute of the game,
Their conversation.
their conversation, and the build up with the guitar, and then the final word that Ellie says.
Trying to remember all of it because I've watched like 3 hours of the baseball documentary since then. I'm trying to remember.
So it's basically Ellie's like, promise me that everything you told me about the Fireflies is true. Oh, Adam's dead.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I think I just disconnected again.
Yeah, it's Ellie going, promise me everything you've told me about the Fireflies is true. And then Joel says, it is. And then you hear the build up of the guitar, and it's like.
And his story is that they're bad people, correct? I don't remember.
No, his story is that there's dozens of people like Ellie, and they've given up on finding it. And him just lying directly to Ellie, because Ellie earlier.
Yeah. Like
What do you think about it? Not like
if we're not talking about this as a video game, just like if we're talking about them in that situation, I understand why he does it, but it's also like she's may not old enough because she'd be 15 or 16 by the time the first game ends, but she's
14.
Experienced
She's 14
enough
when it starts, so she'd be like 15.
Never mind. Yeah, sorry.
But she's experienced enough in the world that they're in that I don't think he has to lie to her.
Okay. But yeah. Brandon, what do you think about the ending?
I think it's a very, very selfish choice. And I don't want to say anything that I've read or anything, so I'm just going to stay away from it. I just think that it's a very, very selfish
You
choice.
can talk about it without talking about future things.
But no, because like,
No, Adam, Brandon, shut up. You would just talk about it in the context of this game.
Okay. All right. I think that the choice Joel makes is very, very selfish. I think that he's wrong, but it adds up. Like, it makes sense. Like, I couldn't see, given everything that happened to him, and everything he experienced with Ellie and with Sarah, he has another chance to save his daughter.
His baby girl.
His baby girl. He has another chance to save his baby girl. Like, it makes sense. Like, I understand it. Like,
That's how I feel. Yeah, it makes sense. It's not a good choice, but it makes sense.
but yeah, that's how I feel about it.
So, one thing I'll say about this that I find interesting, and this is more of a connection to video games in general, is 2013 was also the year that BioShock Infinite came out. And the reason I bring that up is because both of those games are about the player's lack of choice, and how, they don't have any say in what the characters they're controlling do. And I think both of the main characters are voiced by Troy Baker, ironically, if I remember correctly.
And it's kind of interesting because a year prior we had The Walking Dead, which was a game that was all about player choice.
But then it's still going to end the same way.
Yeah.
No matter what. Same with Mass Effect 3, right? Yeah. We've had these series of games that are all about player choice, but then they always come to the same conclusion no matter what. And I think The Last of Us is interesting because there are little moments of player choice, right? Like you can choose to give Bill the letter. You can choose to have certain conversations. You can choose to do certain things here and there. But then when you get to the end, you might be doing the choice that you, outside of the situation, don't want to make, right? That you do not want to control this character doing this thing. But yet he makes that choice. Because ultimately, Joel is a character in a story, This may be an interactive medium, but you are still controlling that story and the pace of it and where it's going. You're just moving it along. Mm-hmm. And I think, at least at the time, I don't know if it's still a point of contention now, but at the time, I know a lot of people were super upset about that ending and like how it took that player choice away. And it's like, it's funny. This ties into a video I watched recently about in the Mass Effect series, who controls the main character, Commander Shepard. Is it the player or is it the developers who are designing the game? Because they still have to give some sort of agency to the character and give him some sort of backstory, or them some sort of backstory before the player takes over. And so it's like, I feel like it's a really great statement or like showcase of how video games can be art and how an interactive medium doesn't necessarily need the player to always be making an infinite amount of choices to have an effective story and an effective tale. It could be just as impactful if you are the one doing something that you don't want to do, and you can feel how that affects you and really deal with that and reconcile with it.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to spoil anything, but I haven't read any spoilers for Last of Us, but there was a review that I read where someone had the same complaints people had about the original Last of Us with the lack of player choice and how they felt uncomfortable playing as Ellie. And I just find it interesting how even 7 years after this game came out, people are still looking for that player choice in a game that doesn't even care about the player's choices. It cares about telling a story that is a complex story of morals, ideas, and themes that deal with love and how love can conquer certain choices above everything else. But yeah, if you were to give this a rating on Letterboxd, Adam, what would you give it?
I actually did. There's a like, and I think, and it. I don't know what country the movie was made in, but it is called The Last of Us. So I decided to just review it there. I gave it 4.5.
4.5. Okay. Okay. No.
Hey, I have a list of everything we've been watching, so I just threw it on there.
As a narrative, Brandon, not as a game, but as a narrative, what would you give it?
5 stars.
5 stars, Sam?
1 star. No,
Right with your bud.
no, I give it 5 stars, definitely, 100%.
All right. And what is your favorite moment from the game? Each and every one of you.
Mhm.
I mean, I hate to take it from someone else. Probably someone else's, but it's your background, Landon. You see a little
Yeah, that's my favorite moment as well.
drafts. That's probably my favorite moment of the game.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
To expand, I think that entire section. So not just the moment with the giraffes, but like the start of that's spring, right?
That's
That final section.
spring. And it's right after you have that interaction with David where
Who's
he
played
tries
by
to
fucking Nolan North.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like,
I didn't know
what?
about that.
Oh my god,
David
dude.
played, yeah. But it's right after David it's assumed that he was trying to do questionable things to Ellie. And it's right after Ellie actually like with her bare hands basically kills somebody. And it's like the loss of her childhood, even though like if you can call it her childhood, what she's been experiencing so far, but
Almost
like that's the
whatever semblance, whatever shred of childhood she had left,
yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah.
And
And that's why I think the moment is so brilliant. It's so good.
If I had to pick something that none of us had picked, I'd probably I lost it. I just had it and then I lost it.
I like the moment where you
Is the car, the driving car?
No. I think no. I just remembered it. I was gonna say the entire line or the entire segment with the two brothers, Sam and what was the other brother's name? Henry. Yeah, just that entire like that you finally meet someone that's kind of in the same position as you. It's someone who's older and someone who's younger, and they found someone like them, and then immediately they go through several things, and then immediately it's kind of snuffed out.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. All right. And then Sam, Sam and I will talk briefly about Left Behind. We'll just kind of explain to you what happens in it, Adam. At the end of The Last of Us, one of the things that Ellie talks about is how when she got bit, she had a friend that also got bit with her, and they said that like, hey, we'll just wait it out and be all poetic and stuff. It basically follows that, and it also follows what Ellie does after Joel falls on the pole. After Joel falls on the pole and then he passes out off the horse. It bridges that gap between fall and winter. And the biggest reveal that comes out from Left Behind is that Ellie is gay, and the friend that she got bit with, moments before they got bit, they confessed their love for each other, and they kissed. And it's a beautiful moment. It's one of the best moments in the Last of Us series, I think, because everything that leads up to that is perfection. It still brings a tear to the eye.
Has any of you guys read the comic?
No, American Dream.
I heard Greg Miller fucking recap it in a podcast where they talked about The Last of Us. It sounded good. I haven't read it.
It's good. It's good. It expands on like the relationship between her and Riley, and I think that more than anything, it's not like I was very surprised by like how because like there's like a hobo, right? He lives in a tent like in the mall, and you hear, like, you understand, you like learn a lot more about him, and he's very interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a note that he leaves, I think, in Left Behind,
Yeah.
where it's about him talking about how like Ellie stole his horse or something.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to get mad at her or something like that.
Yeah.
I think
in the comic, they actually tell a story about the horse, and you get to
they
see
do.
it. Yeah. And it's like her and Riley, they take it out, and like there's a whole thing about it. But yeah, it's really, really interesting.
But yeah, the best moments in Left Behind for me are the moments where there is no actual gameplay. It's the moments in the mall with Riley and Ellie
The photo
and
booth.
the photo booth. Oh my god, the photo booth is like that scene from the Before series, like the listening booth. That's what it feels like.
Yep.
Because right after like they're done taking photos and everything, it's just like
awkward.
it's so good. It's so good.
So before we go any further, I have a confession to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I played Left Behind the way you suggested, Landon, which is after winter ends, right? No, after fall ends and winter begins. And I had completely forgotten about that ending line where she mentions Riley, right?
Oh, shit.
Completely forgotten about that. And I kind of forgot where the game goes from that point. So what I thought they were doing is I thought they were cutting from like immediately what happens after Joel falls on the pole and some ambiguous time between the end of fall and the beginning of winter for the entire thing. So when it gets to the end and then it's bitten, I was like, why is Ellie worried about getting bitten? That's super weird. I don't get that. And it kind of like ended. I was like, that was kind of weird. I don't really. That was a weird thing at the time. Like, I don't know. And then when it got to the end and Ellie says the line, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That was so stupid.
Oh my god.
So there was like a day or two where I was like, yeah,
they're
good.
even talking about how they're talking about in the beginning. They're talking about how like she's joining the Fireflies and everything like that.
Yeah.
Riley is. So I don't understand how that happened. But
I think I just went like in one ear out the other, and then like by the time I got to the end of the actual game, I was like, oh, I'm stupid. Of course, that makes way more sense.
Oh my god. But yeah, just like everything that deals with Riley and Ellie is so good. Like I said, every time that scene happens, it like brings a tear to my eye because it's just so pure. Do you know what I mean? Like throughout the game, you've just been experiencing this like brutal violence after brutal violence. And it's just one moment. It's just one moment of like pure joy and pure humanity. And it so quickly just gets, like Sam, it so quickly just gets snuffed out. And it's, because like right after they kiss, you hear the clickers and you hear watch out, and then it just cuts. And then like you have the water gun fight before that, and you throw the bricks at the car.
The fucking
Billy masks.
The fucking arcade machine.
Oh,
where you imagine the fight?
Yeah,
bro. Oh my god.
So good.
I literally feel like it was just Naughty Dog being like, all right, what's like the craziest idea we can think of? Like, what's just weird shit we can do? Water gun fight. Let's try on mass. Imaginary arcade. Okay, yeah, let's go. Like, let's do it.
And then like not the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round.
So good.
Oh man. But yeah, I think Left Behind, it's not better than like the actual game, but like it has some of the best moments in like the series, I think. It also introduces a mechanic that should have been in the original game, where you can have clickers and people. You can like throw bricks to attract clickers to fight the people. So if you don't want to fight all of them at once, you can just have them dwindle the numbers, which I thought was really cool.
Yep.
But yeah, that's The Last of Us. Love it. That's my time. Thank you for tuning in to Landon's Dreamy Corner.
Where we played a game.
Next week, I will probably be talking about my general thoughts of The Last of Us Part 2 without spoiling.
Time?
Yes.
Just
30 hours.
that's.
I don't have to work Saturday or Sunday.
You might beat it in time. That's fair. That's fair.
What happened to Brandon?
He's running. He's like, oh god. Oh shit! But he's he's back.
He stopped
What were
running.
you gonna say, Brandon?
No, I didn't say anything.
You just like froze,
Guy froze.
and you're on like you're the way
You're in this.
you're like this.
The first Zoom is trying to unencrypt calls to the cops, and now they're freezing Black people's screens. Just more examples of Zoom being prejudiced and racist. Fuck you, Zoom. I know you're listening.
That's what Spike Lee was talking about. Okay.
Just Black people trying to do shit in America, and Zoom trying to oppress us and shit. Fuck you, Zoom. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Landon.
Oh yeah, I'll just give my general thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2 next week. Hopefully I'll beat it by then. I don't know if you guys will have played any of it by then.
Probably not.
I don't know. Probably not. Okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting till next week to get it.
Next week we have Brandon's Reading Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit. Yeah, it's true. Damn.
You didn't even pick a movie.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna pick a movie. You know what? I'm gonna pick a movie. I'll pick a movie. All right. Okay. Are you ready for this pick, guys?
This is on the fly, apparently.
On the fly. So my pick for this week is Artemis Fowl.
Is it really? Okay.
What?
I got really excited there for a second.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was like, hell yes. Hell yes. We finally get to talk about something bad. I got so excited.
Guess what?
What?
I wasn't joking. I'm recommending Artemis Fowl. This week, this Friday, we're watching Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hey, I remember reading those books when I was little, and I've heard the movie's complete garbage, so let's do this.
I'm talking about Josh Gad as a dwarf. I'm talking about Colin Farrell as Artemis Fowl. I'm talking about Judi Dench. I'm recommending Artemis Fowl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you had
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Huh?
if you had like an alternative pick.
Yeah, I did. So I had two actually.
Okay.
One was
Foul.
one was King of Staten Island, but I didn't want to make you guys pay $20 for see Pete Davidson's face.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. The other one was Ganja and Hess. It's a really great blaxploitation experimental film from the 70s about race, class, and ethnicity in a time where Black men weren't allowed to be themselves. They were confined to a very specific box, which is very topical and very important. But honestly, I don't want to see more death and more it's a great film. It's a masterpiece. One of my favorite films of all time. I wrote a piece about it.
I'm sorry.
Times. Huh?
What's it called again? I'm sorry. It's called
Ganja and Hess. It's about a Black man who becomes a vampire and he slowly seduces he slowly seduces a woman who is a friend of his late colleague who he murders. But yeah, it's a great film. It's by Bill Gunn. It's one of the first really big pieces of experimental film in the blaxploitation or Black filmmaking movement. It's one of the first experimental pieces of Black cinema, and I'll recommend it at some point in the future. But what?
I was sorry. I have a habit of completing sentences. I was just. You're good.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I'm probably gonna recommend it at some point. But for now, I want to recommend Artemis Fowl, Kenneth Branagh's Artemis Fowl, from the mind of Shakespeare, from the mind of what's Henry V, from the mind of the Murder on the Orient Express, from the mind of Othello, Kenneth
Hamlet.
Branagh's Artemis Fowl.
Wait, what is it again? What are we watching?
Artemis Fowl.
Oh, okay. Who directed that?
Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh.
What else did he direct?
Henry V.
He was that captain in Dunkirk that was in there for 5 minutes, but he's in all the trailers.
The
Henry
4-hour
V.
Hamlet,
Terrible.
He did the Orient Express.
which was fine.
I'm ready.
Artemis Fowl.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
What if I like it?
Huh?
What if I like it?
Okay. That's gonna be the best show. Is if we're all like, "Yeah, man, fuck Artemis Fowl," and then we like come in next week and we're like, "I hate to say it, guys, but I really liked it." And everyone else is like, "Yeah, it was actually pretty good." Like it was like why people are really hating on this movie. It was actually like pretty well made and had a lot of interesting themes and ideas, and you know about like child slavery and how they're manipulated by media. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
What is Artemis Fowl about?
He's a supervillain rich kid, but fantasy.
He's like young Elon Musk.
Yeah, like actually.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of myself. In elementary school, I didn't like the book because I thought the kid was an asshole.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was more of a Percy Jackson person.
No, hell yeah, dude. Let's go, Percy
So,
Jackson.
what
Yeah,
about
I would
Percy
agree.
Jackson too? And the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief.
Percy Jackson, that entire series was great.
The books were really good. The movies.
1, 4, and 5 were like their peak young adult books.
You don't like Sea of Monsters, bro?
Sea of Monsters is good. That and 3 were okay. I just don't remember as much about
Sea of
it.
Monsters slaps.
Sea Monsters, pretty great book. Not gonna lie. Sea Monsters, pretty great.
There's that moment. I think it's when they're running over the bridge. Is that when he confesses his love to what's her name? There's a moment where,
Annabelle. Annabelle.
yeah, Annabelle. Is that when he confesses his love to her?
I'm pretty sure.
I think so. First time I shed a tear. Monsters.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Artemis Fowl.
Artemis Fowl.
Dude.
Okay, Brandon, take us out of here.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this very, very mix of emotion episode. I really, really appreciate you. Stay safe, everyone. If you're going out protesting, stay safe. Bring umbrellas, bring face masks, social distance if you can, but at the same time, we know it's really hard. So just try to stay safe. Keep everyone around you safe. Again,
Sign some petitions.
make some donations if you can. Yeah. Well, yeah.
We might put some links down below in the description, maybe.
Yeah, I'm planning on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll put some links down below for some petitions you can sign, and some bail funds and other donations that you can make.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you guys for joining us again. For Cinemania, this is a really fun show. It's really great being back. Next week, we're going to be talking about Kenneth Branagh's Artemis Fowl. So yeah, but thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Cinemania. I'm your host, Brandon Schellingford, alongside me, my co-host.
Landon Roberts.
Adam Cheek.
And Sam Goodrich.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Hope